following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and hey, look over there. There's a big mansion over there, and I think that we should go in and look around.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Come on. I mean, let's go check it out. And maybe there's some food hidden in the basement.
Oh, there's food in the basement for sure.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. Evil is coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
This week, for another change of pace, we're going to be discussing a truly heartwarming and inspirational... I'm just kidding. We're going to be talking about The Road. It's one of the most depressing movies ever made.
This is week 2, people, of Blow Your Brains Out Theater.
Brought to you by Diana and Steve.
And Smith & Wesson.
Yeah. You're probably not wrong. So, folks, if it's your first time listening to us, first of all, welcome. And second of all, what we usually like to do is before we get into our moments from the movie or TV show we're going to discuss, we usually will do just a real quick sort of, rapid fire. What did you think of what we just watched before we get into the nitty gritty? So, Steve, you went first last week when we talked about The Mist, which if you didn't listen, back up one episode and listen to our podcast on The Mist. But it's my turn to go first. And I think that's great because I love this movie. It's everything I want in a movie. It's bleak. It's dark. It has the only thing I don't like about this movie, and I really wish, and it's not their fault because, it's, there's just a tiny kernel of hope at the end. And I really think that they put that in there because movie audiences can't handle that. Book readers can, and there wasn't really a very, it wasn't as shiny at the end of the book as it was in the movie. So, other than that, the little tiny kernel of hope, which we'll talk about when we get into our points, this is people dealing with the apocalypse, which I love that. No real concrete explanation for why the apocalypse happened or really sort of what happened. It's hinted at, but we don't really know exactly what it was. And just trying to survive, just trying to withstand the day in and day out of, the world and the entire world changing. And this one's really interesting because it's not just if you take other movies, sometimes there's an apocalyptic event or a thing and you can still, like Walking Dead, you could still grow crops. You know what I mean? You could still, but this is some type of environmental, nuclear bomb, fallout kind of situation. And this isn't the fun kind of fallout, based off of a video game. This is the, everything is gone, it's covered in ash and soot, and there's nothing alive anywhere except for, some small bands of people here and there. So, it is, I admit, it's a bleak movie, but in terms of attacking what would happen after an apocalyptic event, it's about as good as you're gonna get without any other outside influences. It's literally just the story of these two people trying to make it. So like I said, definitely one of my favorites of all time, and it had been a bit since I'd rewatched it, so I'm so glad we're covering it on the podcast because I got to revisit it for the first time in a bit. So how about you? What are your thoughts on The Road?
All right, well, first of all, let me just say I'm really glad that you got to go first here Because
Why?
I know you are a big fan of this movie. I know that you really like the
Yes.
book, and you
Yes.
read it a lot and pull it out.
Hmm.
It's a go-to for you, and uh, I am not a big fan of this movie. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's fine. It just doesn't grab me at all.
Okay.
And I when I saw it back in 2009, in the theater, I came out of it, and again, I don't get me wrong, I love the apocalypse, I love all that kind of stuff, and I came out of it, and I just was like, okay, that was something. And it is not a movie I've revisited very much in the, 26 years since then, or 16 years since then, 17 years, whatever it is. And so I watched it again on Friday, and I just watched it. I didn't take any notes. I didn't stop it and rewind. I just watched the movie just to let it wash over me and absorb it again, and just go, I'm
Yeah.
older. I'm obviously not the same person I was back then. Maybe it'll hit me differently. And then I watched it again last night when I did all my normal homeworky things where I'm stopping and rewinding and looking and checking a lot of things out and looking at how they shot stuff and what's in the background, all that kind of, which is not the same as just watching a movie, right? And
Right. Right.
I got done, and it's the same reaction where I'm like, it's extremely well made. There's definitely some really interesting things in it that I liked. It just didn't grab me. And so I asked myself, I said, why? Why is that? What's wrong with this particular movie? Because I would think I would really like this movie. And I this afternoon, as I was kind of mulling stuff around about it, I kind of think like there are like 3 points to me of like why this movie just doesn't affect me or work for me. And the first one, and let me start by saying I am not someone that needs my narrative, my story spoon fed to me. I love ambiguity in films. I love when there's gray, when there's stuff open for interpretation, where
Hmm.
it doesn't really necessarily matter how we got here, we just are here. But that being said, I mean, to quote Dr. Evil, throw us a frickin' bone here, people. Give us something about what happened, right? It doesn't, whether
Okay.
it's just the man's theory on what happened, or whether it's, I mean, just, I mean, and what they do tell you, and I'm real curious, by the way, to see, how does the book differ from the movie? And I know you want to go over that at the end, and so I'm really looking forward to that. And maybe McCormick writes a lot more about it, or McCarthy, excuse me, writes a lot more about it. But uh, uh, at the beginning of the movie, we get the man, and he basically says there was like a big flash one night. The clock stopped at 1:17, and there was a bunch of earthquakes, and then that was it. It was over. Everything was dead. And then, so you're
Hmm.
like, okay, well, that's like like you said, a nuclear explosion, like maybe a meteor hit the Earth or something like that, some kind of extinction level event that just, bang, happened, and there it is. And then later on, when they meet the old man, he's talking about it like it's almost like global warming or something, where, we knew it was coming, and a lot of people thought it was a con, but I always believe all that stuff. So, like, all the stuff we get is kind of conflicting, and maybe that's the point. Maybe that's what McCarthy wanted to say, is that it doesn't, nobody really knows what happened. It just happened. But again, it's like, I'm not saying I need like a 20-minute montage on the world ending, although I would admit that would be cool to watch, but I didn't need that for this at all. I just like, just give me a little bit more. So that was the first thing. And then the second point was that, let's be honest, there is not much plot to this movie. I mean, it literally is the man and the boy, and they're on the road, and they're like, they must have they started north, and now they're going south. And why, we're not really sure. It's like, I guess they think that there might be food south, and that it might be a little better than it is in north, but there's not a definite, like, when they get south, it's really kind of fuzzy as to what they're supposed to do. There's that, and then all of the things that happen in the movie are just kind of these random encounters that don't really ever add up to anything. And so they meet the first group of bad guys and they tussle with them, and then they just walk away and we never see those guys again. And then they come up to the second group of bad guys in the house and they end up messing with their, food in the basement and all that. And then they walk away from them and we never see them again. And it's just sort of like there's nothing ever really pays off or builds on it. For me personally, and then the third thing, and this is probably the most important, is that I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I am kind of a smartass, and I think you are too in many ways, and I think both of us use humor to, like, as a defense mechanism, right? When things get too serious, you want to crack wise, right? You want to lighten everybody
Right.
up. You want to say, hey, come on, and this movie is Heath Ledger's Joker is talking right to the screenwriter and the author, saying, why so serious? Because by my count, there is one line in the whole movie where one character is like trying to say something, and it's like a funny moment, and it's in the flashback, right? And it's literally when Charlize Theron's water breaks, and she's gonna have the baby. At one point, she's like, I don't want to do this. We can't do this. Viggo Mortensen kind of laughs and goes, I kind of think we do. And that's it. All right. That's the funniest thing in the whole movie. And all of the present day stuff, it is humorless. Right. And it just, maybe they're saying that all the people that had a sense of humor have been killed by this point, which I don't necessarily believe in, because I think if cannibals were to eat all the people that would crack wise, they would eventually stop, because, as we all know, they would taste funny. But yeah, so it's kind of those three things where it's like I need, again, I think gallows humor is super. It's a thing, and black humor, black comedy, what is comedy? It's tragedy plus distance, right? All of these kind of things, and so people would still not be as sort of morose as they, at least the people I would hang out with in this situation wouldn't be. So I think it's a combination of those three things that just I never really got into this movie. It didn't really, pick me up where I'm like, wow. And like I said, it's got an amazing cast. It's shot really well, and it has a really cool look to it. And there are some amazing moments in it. I think there are some clever moments in it with the way the script works and how they present it. It just, overall, it just doesn't do anything for me. So I'm sorry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious too, and we can delve more into it when we do like points and point of views, but I'm curious, like, you have a tendency to be the more cold and dead inside of the two of us, and the fact that the story to me is just about the man the man's commitment to his son, like, if it's the last thing he does on Earth, and it's the last thing he does on Earth, he's going to make sure that his son has the knowledge and can survive, and, as they say, carry the fire. So to me, like, that to me was the centerpiece of the story, and all these other things that are around it, which we'll talk more through details, and, like you said, the people they run into, etc. Because that was like the emotional anchor, was just this, like, to me, it's not about the, all those outside influences. They're all teaching moments for the boy, for him to learn and mature and be able to go forth in this world and be okay. And and they come little bits at a time, but the whole point of this whole story is for him to make sure that the boy lives, and the arc is a very, very, like, emotional one. It's an emotional attachment between those two. And I think because, like, and to me, it's sort of like beautiful in like a, like in a male female relationship sort of way, like very, I tend to romanticize that stuff. So having his commitment be like this emotional one, like, it hit me, whereas if that's not something that is interesting to you or that moves you, I can see why this movie wouldn't. Because you're right, it doesn't have a lot of. It is very thin when it comes to, structure and all of that stuff. But those things to me don't matter in this tale, because to me it's like the everyman trying to save his son kind of thing. Like the other details feel superfluous and unnecessary in a lot of ways. But it's more centered on that sort of loving emotional relationship, as it were. And like I said, like you've always said when we were watching Walking Dead, the relationships and the stuff like the personal drama is not something that interests you. You know what I mean? So I'm curious if because if you take another, we covered Children of Men, say,
Yep.
and that's you could say that it's got some horror and science fiction elements, but it's an apocalypse style story. There's an element of the world ended and changed, but I think because there were lots of other the story was all of these other things which led to Clive Owen's character having to do the task he did, but it just feels like that structure was a little more different, and so it's easy to get caught up in the adventure of it. If he didn't get approached, if that girl wasn't pregnant or whatever, he would have never been approached for that, and there wouldn't have been any story or whatever. This is like the most necessary, and because he doesn't have a choice. He's not being asked to do this. This is his duty to do this. You know what I mean? Duty.
She said duty.
I don't duty. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to belabor it, but I think we've been to it. I'm not surprised. Like I wish you liked it more, but I mean, we'll talk through some of the stuff. And like I said, I understand, and I recognize as a film buff that those things that you mentioned, that they exist. But it's to me, that central relationship did hit me, so those other things that do exist and I acknowledge them didn't matter to me as much, because that central relationship hit me, whereas it didn't hit you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we've psychoanalyzed how we felt about the movie, that's it, folks. We're done for the day. So, all right. So those weren't really quick thoughts, but sort of sets up how we'll be sort of approaching the movie as we, continue on with our moments that hit us through the movie. It's going to be really easy because since Steve didn't like it, his list is empty. I'm just kidding.
That was my list. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So before we get into our individual lists, let's first go through a quick description of the movie, and then we will talk through the writer and the director for the film, and then get into our points. So why don't you go ahead and do that, and then we'll get into our points.
All right. So again, this is the 2009 feature film The Road, which is based on the best-selling novel by Cormac McCarthy. And the description that we have is as follows. In a dangerous post-apocalyptic world, an ailing father defends his son as they slowly travel to the sea. And that is your episode description.
Yeah, there was one on... Oh, God. I think the description that's on Prime is like, a father is trying to outrun cannibals. And I'm like actively? I mean, not like... I mean, yes, existentially, they're trying to outrun the cannibals.
No,
but I don't
it was
think
like an actual relay race that they were doing,
Yeah. Like, hurry up or we're taking an ankle.
Right. Well, and again, like to my point, I mean, like I would have almost preferred if like the first group, the Garrett Dillahunt group, and we will get into Garrett Dillahunt, if like the whole movie, like they were like hunting them because, they killed one of their guys. I mean, not that that mattered, they ate him, but I mean, that would have been something where like every place the man and the boy go to, they know they can't dilly or dally because those guys are coming
On their
after him.
tail
Yeah,
kind of
you
thing.
know.
Yeah, I can
So,
see
but
that. That would have been interesting.
again,
But
totally different story, right? And again, you are the one who's read the book, and I think part of what McCarthy's trying, to say, what he's, the things he wants to get out is that, in this world, there that basically it doesn't matter where you go, everything is bad, and so you don't
mm,
need a villain, that is constantly on your tail trying to track you down, because around the corner there's going to be new villains, and basically everybody you're going to meet is going to want to kill you and eat you in this world. I mean, that's,
right, right.
so I get it. It's just, I think that would have been, I think, more of a crowd pleaser idea. I think more people would have gotten on board with the movie than
Mm,
did. But anyway,
I could, yeah.
so
All right.
let's go. What is your number one moment?
Oh, did we talk writer
Oh
director?
yeah,
Let's
no,
talk
we
that
didn't. We
first,
didn't.
real
Yeah,
quick.
all right, real quick. Our again, the writer is a dude named Joe Penhall, and
Hmm.
he, took the McCarthy text and kind of created the screenplay. The things that he has done, the biggest thing that he's done that people will be familiar with is he wrote 19 episodes of the series Mindhunter. So if you remember that show where
Oh,
the FBI guys are doing
yes.
the serial killers, very popular a few years ago. He's a big voice on that show because he wrote a bunch of those episodes. He, like other features, he wrote a movie called King of Thieves from a couple years ago, if you remember that, as well. And he has a lot of credits, but there are a lot of smaller things, smaller films, short films type stuff. So Mindhunter was kind of his big, getting his foot in the door and get noticed kind of a thing. And then obviously he wrote this. And like I said, I've never read the novel, but I've read some people's reviews of it. I've looked at the synopsis, and it seems to me like most of the beats in the movie are all directly from the book. So I
Yes.
think, and again, you are the person who would be able to answer definitively, but just from my, kind of like looking at the cliff notes of the book, it looks to me like the movie is pretty faithful to the story.
It really is. And it's funny because you wrote down Joe Penhall, but in IMDb they actually credit Cormac McCarthy as
Yeah,
well because of the source
right.
material. So I mean it's pretty, we'll talk through the differences, but it's probably one of the most faithful book adaptations I've probably ever
Okay,
seen
cool.
outside of maybe Shawshank,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
right, yeah. And it's funny because there's one part of that I've read of the description, one group that the boy and the man meet that did not make the movie, and I totally
Hmm.
understand why it did not make the movie, but I'm like, I would have wanted to have seen that. So we
Yeah.
can talk about that later. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about too.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
and
Yes,
I
very
and,
visual.
and I think that was like somebody in either the studio or one of the producers like literally had to go, guys, we're not doing this, okay?
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. But so that's our writer. And you're right, it's Joe Penhall, but again, it's also McCarthy's book because it doesn't really follow the book in terms of the beats, like the various encounters and things seem to be taken directly from it. So that's our writer.
Yeah.
And then our director is this guy named John Hillcoat,
Hmm.
and he has a lot of IMDb credits, but it's a lot of like in a lot of short films and things. The couple things that did catch my eye that people might be familiar with is he directed several episodes of the series Black Mirror, which is a very
Hmm.
popular thing, kind of a modern day Twilight Zone kind of a show that I want to say, is it on Netflix or Amazon? One of those two.
Hmm.
And just a couple years ago, and that's something that I do remember being in the theaters, although I did not see it. So we got a lot of experience, a lot of things that, but certainly, and again, I think the movie is incredibly well made. It's not, again, I don't dislike this movie. It just I'm not like, yeah, let's watch The Road. You know what I mean? It's sort of like, yeah, okay, it's something, and so on. But that is our writer and our director.
Yes. So let's jump into our and right off the bat, sort of over of stuff. Which one of the things I really appreciate is they don't sort of belabor it. It starts off really nice with a there's like the like it's bright and cheerful and carefree, as it were, colorful. Um, and then it changes really quickly to most, if not all, of the color gone. It changes to like a sort of sepia, sort of amber scale. And then because it appears like everything outside is on fire, you don't see it. It's sort of amorphous thing happening elsewhere. And it changes from this like beautiful moment between these two people who love each other, husband and wife, we assume, but at least, male and female partners. And it switches from that to the next thing is, he wakes up, he looks outside and sees something. We don't know what it is because we're never told. But he goes directly into the bathroom and starts running the water. And her question is, why are you taking a bath? And he's like, I'm not. And anyone, especially if you live in the Midwest, anyone who knows when there's going to be a natural disaster or something like that, you fill your bathtubs so that you can have fresh water.
Right.
And so as soon as he does that, and you're like, oh, yeah, he's not expecting to have fresh water for very long, so he's getting some.
Yes.
So yeah, it's quick. It literally takes only about screen time before we're there. We're in the apocalypse, him reacting to it, and then it's him running the water in the bathtub, this sound of water. It's mirroring what's happening in the current timeline. He's sleeping. They're near some running water, like some type of cascading water somewhere. And he like it how like when you hear something and it affects your dream, like it makes you,
oh yeah,
and so you
incorporate that into it. Yeah.
Correct. So he's hearing this water in real life in current timeline, and it's making him remember the night everything fell, which I'm sure he dreams about all the time anyway, but the sense memory of running the water. So, which was really interesting. So, so it jumps right in, and it's very visual, and you included that as your number one as well. So.
Yeah. There's literally a scene where he's like looking out like the front door of their house, and you can see it's like a wooded, kind of a forested area out the doorway, and it's very lush and green and vibrantly colorful. And the shot, the screen door closes and sort of cuts in front of the camera, and the screen is this sort of black mesh. And literally as it closes and sort of fills the screen, it just wipes all the color from outside away. And when you're looking through that screen door, now everything is this kind of gray, and it's just sort of like, yeah, that's what's coming. So
get ready.
Yeah. So I thought, ooh, that was kind of a cool trick there to kind of give us some idea. Again, not like you said, not that they had to wait long, because it like this, that little opening moment. I mean, it, like you said, it's like 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, and then we're suddenly in current time when it's the man and the boy, and they're out and about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oot in a boot if they were in Canada. And all right, so that's sort of the opening. We get into their journey. So from the 2 minutes in, when he wakes up, and there's an earthquake, and he's like, it's another earthquake. So now we know like that's something common that they're dealing with. But then once they get all suited up and ready to go and they get on the road, no pun intended, but they get out and start walking, there's literally like no change to that. They are traveling this entire movie with like, they take 1 or 2 little stops, with the, when they find the little underground bunker and when they stop in the house that he grew up in, quote unquote. But it's constant. Like, they start on the road like a few minutes into the movie, and the end of the movie is the end of the road. They hit the ocean, they get there, and it's the end of the road, the literal one and the figurative one, because that's, clearly where he dies and everything. But yeah, it's we're on the road, folks, and we're not stopping until we get there, So the first sort of the first time we see them sort of scavenging, looking around, we see them, there's a couple of clips here and there of like, we're looking here, we're looking there, but they come upon like just a little cabin in the middle, like a little barn, nothing huge, nothing crazy, but it looks very deserted and there's nobody around.
Yep.
And they're like, well, let's go take a look. So they go in and they're sort of looking around in the barn, and it's this really, it's a really well shot scene, because when it starts out, it looks like one thing and then expands out and it's something else. They're sort of rooting around, looking through the barn, looking for this, that, and the other, and the son's trying to be positive. Maybe there's some corn up in the hayloft. I doubt it. Maybe they left a little bit of this behind. He's like, no, looks like they ate through everything and there's nothing left. He's trying to keep the spirits up. And of course, the dad's like, one would say negative, but we'll go with pragmatic here. And he's like, no, it's gone, it's gone. And then, the boy is looking at something that's like beyond, like we can't see it yet. It's like in the foreground, like beyond where we are, our perspective. The camera pans out a little and you can see what he's looking at, and there's bodies that are hanging in the barn, and from the hayloft. And the boy is he's kind of fascinated by them. He's looking up at them, and he's clearly got questions, because he's, I'm sure this isn't the first time they've seen people hanging. But his dad answers, and he says, it's not what you think. They committed suicide. And he says, why? And his dad says, you know why. And, there's some voiceover, so we get a little bit of info here and there occasionally from the man. And one of the things he says is cannibalism is a threat.
Yes.
People start eating each other. So when he says, you know why, he's saying it to the boy, but he's saying it to us too. Oh, they couldn't find food anymore, and they didn't want to end up like the other people, and they certainly didn't want to be eaten.
Yes.
So they're going to just do it themselves.
See, they should have just gone down the road, because there was a big mansion with lots of nice rooms they could stay in.
I mean, it was dark, but if you put like a lamp down in that cellar, you would have been fine. The interesting thing is I think like they've probably seen other homes, other cabins, other locations that have had, say, the leftovers of cannibals. So this isn't the first time he's seen people hanging, but I'm wondering if it's the first time we've seen them fully intact the way they are, because he has to explain suicide.
Yeah.
As opposed to he's used to probably seeing skeletons with like just a little bit of something hanging off of them, or nothing at all, picked clean, as it were.
Well, yeah, the man, before they get to the barn, they're like in more of an urban area, and he's opening up like the garbage cans, remember? And they're just filled with human skeletons.
Yeah. That was gross.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting too, like he's filled with wonder, because he grew up post-apocalypse. He has no idea. Everything he knows, he's learned from his dad, or
Yeah.
he's seen in his limited experience, because the world is completely different from the one that, the man grew up in, with that all of us grew up in. So trying to explain, oh, this is like this because of that, or this is the way it used to be. But he also, I think what's most fascinating, I mean, he looked up with them with the same wonder as when they were going through that one building and there was the trophy deer head on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
He's never seen a deer. He's never seen an animal out in the real world. They're all gone. And so he's looking at, and he's looking at it like it's some kind of alien creature, but he has the same look on his face when he's looking at the bodies, because it's so alien to him. So I really liked that moment, and that he has to be told about them committing suicide, and it didn't make sense at first, but his father just has to be like, you know why, just think about it, which then leads into a really, difficult but important scene when he goes through the whole, hey, by the way, we've got this gun, it's got 2 bullets, one's for you, one's for me, hey, happy fun times, let's talk through when we're gonna kill each other,
and exactly how we do it.
Yeah, which I think is hilarious that that scene happens in this movie, and we literally just covered a movie where they had the conversation about, well, we've got 4 bullets left and 5 people and da 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 da. So, with that final scene that's in the Mist. Mm-hmm. So here we have this other one where they're like, well, at least they've got the right number of bullets for the right number of people. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, yes, but
yes,
you never know when you're going to have to shoot Garrett Dillahunt. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you never know when you're going to have to shoot Garrett Dillahunt. Let's talk about your number 2.
Yeah, let's talk about number 2. But just before we do that, just to kind of finish off your thing about the barn, and this is just me and my view of apocalypse movies is, I'm like, okay, why are you not taking off their shoes and seeing if they fit? Because they looked pretty good, didn't they?
Yes.
And they make a big deal in this movie about like they're wearing like bags, and like Robert Duvall's character is like wearing literally like cardboard boxes, and the thief, his shoes are, so clearly footwear is huge in the apocalypse, right? You got to have a good pair of shoes. I mean, you do. And here they come upon 3 people, and it looks like it was like a mom and a dad and either a shorter person or a child. So it's like, you know what? There's very possible that maybe they're going to have shoes that fit you, right? That is like the same size. Right. Why are you not checking?
Yeah, I don't see. And the thing is there's that. I'll admit that's another thing that bothers me too, is from all of the apocalypse stories that I've ingested, that you've ingested, but also, we've spent hours and hours of our lives on Walking Dead universe stuff, and that's all about, hey, this could have use. We could use that for something. We could use that. I mean, literally, there was a scene when Daryl and Beth got separated from everyone, and they're walking around with a trash bag, and Beth grabs a broken piece of, like mirror, because she knows that could be useful somehow.
Yeah.
And so I see them, and I understand, like, when you're pushing all of your worldly possessions, you want to travel as light as you can, but there's an element of, you should also be checking things through, like, everywhere.
Yeah. And it's not so much of, oh, we need more stuff. It's like, maybe you can upgrade your current shoes.
Correct.
Yeah. So yes. Like that right there, I'm just like, okay, if you're like Mr. Serious scavenger guy, why are you not? I mean, is it he is such a fossil from the old world that he respects the dead? That he still believes there's respect in dying, and so he doesn't want to, grave rob, right? Which is what he's kind of doing, but
maybe.
But I mean, he has no problem taking everything else that he takes in the movie.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I think you lose that tendency sooner rather than later. Especially like if your feet hurt, who gives a
Yeah.
shit? You know,
Right,
like that
right.
that corpse does not need those shoes.
Exactly.
See, the thing that always drives me nuts is my thing was always, you know, yes, wait, and this is a separate franchise, and I'm sorry for the going into a different direction, but whenever they killed a walker, if you checked their pockets,
Yeah.
what if someone had a pocket knife? What if someone had the amount of people that are like killed and discarded and set aside, or there's already been discarded and set aside, you walk past something that's already been put down or taken down, whatever. What's in their pockets? What
Right.
are they?
What if they have? What if they have another bullet? Then you'd have 3 bullets.
Right, exactly. That's the other thing too. Like, what if you might find the single bullet, the smoking gun, as it were.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
they're, and I understand it. Like I said, they may not want to bring a million things with them, but there's no time spent on even saying. It doesn't look like they're doing any scavenging. They're just like kicking through stuff and looking for food, and it's very ineffective. Like, to me, I would be, you know, I want to see them opening every drawer, and you know, and if they had 1 or 2 scenes where they showed them doing that, you could sort of let it slide.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, for me, I go back to Mad Max 2 when, you know, there's a scene where Mad Max comes upon, he first comes upon the gyro captain's little helicopter thing, the gyrocopter, and there's a car there, and this guy has been bitten by one of the snakes, and he's dead. And Max, like, goes through all of his stuff, and he finds a shotgun shell that guy was just keeping. And, you know, he's like, oh, cool. And then he opens the shotgun and we all see that it's empty, you know, that he didn't have any bullets. And of course, the gyro captain's like, what? It's empty this whole time? You've been threatening me with it? You know, and he's just like, shut up, you know. But anyway, he did it. Like, he scavenged through and kind of saw it, and he found something that, oh, this could help me. So, you know, and whenever guys or gals in these movies don't do that, I'm sort of like, really? What are you doing? You know, come on. Let's, you know. I would take the 5 minutes and be like, do those shoes look like they might fit me? Well, you know what? Let's try them on, you know, but whatever. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
so
yes.
you're number 2. Let's talk Garrett Dillahunt.
Yes. Oh my God. I love that guy. He is so good.
Yeah.
And he's scary, creepy in this.
Yes, he does
you
that
know,
well.
Oh, he does. He does play that kind of menacing role very well. And so yeah, so you know, the 2 of them, they're you know, they come out, they're like right by a tunnel of some sort, and they have kind of left their cart next to an abandoned car, and they're kind of, you know, kind of fidgeting around looking for stuff, you know, is there anything to eat kind of thing, when they hear a car coming, a big truck. And so they leave their cart and they run into the woods, and they kind of hide, you know, close enough that where he can still kind of watch what's happening. And this big truck pulls up, and it's got these like 9 or 10 guys, and they all have hunting rifles. And you know, you really get the sense that you know, they are kind of surviving by just going around, and if they run into any person, they shoot them and then they eat them. And so, you know, they're, you know, waiting to see, you know, and I think like the truck breaks down or something, and so some of the guys are trying to fix it, or maybe it's overheating or something. You know, they open up the hood and they're looking at it, and so Garrett Dillahunt's character kind of walks in their direction to kind of take a leak. And of course is like peeing like 10 feet away from them. And,
of course.
And like it's like, really, you couldn't have gone the other direction. Gee. And for some reason, I guess the man decides that Garrett Dillahunt's going to see them, so he has this, you know, 2-bullet pistol out, and he says, don't move, and, you know, starts talking to him and says, don't turn around. And the, you know, Dillahunt's like, if you shoot me, you know, they will hear the shot and they'll come after. And he's like, yeah, but you'll still be dead. And then he kind of like throws out a whole bunch of medical stuff about what would happen and what parts of his brain would be like destroyed by the bullet, to where you kind of get the idea that maybe in the before time he was a doctor or a medical guy. And
maybe, yeah.
and I'm wondering, is that in the book? Do they go at all into anything that happened in the before time?
No,
Okay.
A lot of the before times are it's mostly that's one of the things that's a difference from the book to the movie is those sort of flashbacky moments with Charlize. Though, like anything from the before times is just like a whiff or a small sense memory or
Okay.
something. It's not this like big chunk of like exposition-y like you get any, it's much more like dreamlike than it is. It feels very solid in the movie, whereas it's less of that in the book.
Okay.
So
Okay.
no, they don't get into any of like who they were and what they did in the before times at all.
Okay. Cool. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and Dillahunt even picks up because he's like, "Are you a doctor?" I'm like, "No." And then it's like, "Why don't you come on back to the truck? We'll get you something to eat." And he's just not not buying it at all. He's just like, "Yeah, you guys are gonna kill us and eat us," type thing. And
Yeah.
so he kind of gets distracted, and Dillahunt jumps over and grabs the boy and gets his knife out and is got the knife under his throat. And to Viggo Mortensen's credit, he doesn't screw around and follows our mantra, and just blows Dillahunt's brains out. Right, just shoots him dead with one of the two bullets. So now he has one bullet left, and of course all of his buddies hear the shot, and so they are starting to coming to investigate. And for a second there, it almost looks like the boy is been hurt because he's not moving. He's got a lot of blood on his face and stuff, but he kind of slowly opens his eyes and starts to move around. And so they get up, and again they just kind of like run away, and they get away. I mean, it's like there's the guys apparently try and look for him that hard. And so my comment was, "Oh, Garrett Dillahunt's in this. Hope he has a big oh wait, he's dead." Because it's real quick. I mean, he's in it for like 2 minutes, But my favorite part, and I wanted to ask you about this, is like they stay away like overnight, and so like the next morning they go back to try and see about their stuff and their cart, their shopping cart. And when they get back there, like the shopping cart's been kicked over and a lot of their stuff's been thrown all over, and he kind of packs up, what is still usable. And he sees on the ground like a spinal cord of a human, like human skeletal bones. And then underneath this abandoned car, you see Dillahunt's severed head. And so it's like clearly his buddies like found his body and said, "Hey, we got lunch."
It's like Two Towers all over again, where it's like, "Looks like meat's been you boys."
Right? Yeah, exactly. And it's just kind of you just have to think, right, that any of those groups where it's a bunch of guys and they're out hunting, to eat people, you just know that if like you run into like kind of a dry patch where you're just not running across any people, they're just going to be like, I never really liked you, and then, but I remember what you taste like. And then, you know what I mean? And so it's like, I get it that there's definitely there, and you're going to eat if you can stomach eating people. And I think if you're hungry enough, you will. But at the same time, don't you think there has to be a little fear there of like when are they going to turn on me?
Oh, absolutely. Like there's like the inherent safety of being with a group of marauders like that, but then there's the inherent like you get hurt your foot or something, because they'll be like
hurt.
They'll be like, "Yeah, see, you're slowing us down, so you're gonna be dinner tonight. Thanks."
Yeah, you like break your leg or something, and it's like a horse where it's just like, "Well, I'm sorry, we're just gonna kill you and eat you." Yeah. So you're right. I really like that little moment though, and man, I mean, Dillahunt's head is in it really quick. I'm guessing that was a censor thing. That in order to get the right kind of rating, they couldn't linger at all on that shot. But it's there.
It just,
right?
I think it had to be there so that like if you're eagle-eyed and you're looking and you see it, you see it. But it's quick enough so that it's like you almost have like a sense of, because before they like sort of focus on the head, you see, like you said, there's like the spinal cord and there's blood. So if you didn't see the head, like if you blinked and missed it or something, you could easily just be like, oh, well, they killed somebody. Maybe it was the guy. I don't know. But it's creepy nonetheless. These are clearly cannibals. So we dodged a bullet here, personally. You know what I mean? So to see how close they came to being that spinal column that's on the ground right now is, but yeah, I agree that I think the conclusion his head was like a very, like, blink and you'll miss it. Because of, like you said, sensors and them saying like, oh God, do we have to focus on the head? I mean, really?
Yeah. You're looking at the head. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But again, a great moment, and I mean, like the way that they film it, the way it's staged, it's very tense, right? I mean, Viggo Mortensen is, I mean, he is like as serious as a heart attack, where he's letting Dillahunt know that if you do anything, I will shoot you. And it's great because Dillahunt's like, I don't think you're going to shoot me at all. I think you're a chicken shirt, and just, what I mean? And like is slowly kind of like trying to gain the upper hand. And he's clearly going, ooh, you know what? I just found, food for everybody. I'm going to be the hero.
They won't kill
for
me
all
anytime
of us.
soon.
Yeah, and the boy is clearly a delicacy, right? So
he's
you know what I mean,
veal.
because it's like free range boy.
Veal.
Yeah, he's the veal, right. So I mean, he and when he shoots him, and so I mean, this thought maybe this is what the story is now, that these guys are like, we're going to track these guys down to the end of the earth, kind of a thing where it's like they killed Mars, we're going to kill them because we want to eat them, but we also want to avenge the guy that they murdered. And that just isn't it at all, because those guys are gone. Like I said, it's like, oh no, those guys are gone, and now we move on, and like we can just move on to our next point, because that part of the story is over and we're moving on.
Yeah. God, still, I had forgotten that Garrett Dillahunt was in the movie, because when this was before very well known or whatever, so this was like early on, so this is like a kind of breakout-ish kind of thing for him. He wasn't the Garrett Dillahunt we know and love, but it was a nice surprise to have him, and I was like, oh, that's right, he's in this movie, it's fantastic. All right.
Yeah. Wait, we should take a moment and just say that, like, of the like I don't know, 7 like characters in the movie that actually have dialogue in the foreground, right? Because there's a lot of people where they're talking in the background and we don't really hear what they're saying. But of those 7, I mean, you take the kid out of it, they are all like well-known actors that we know and like from stuff. I mean, it's a powerhouse cast.
Absolutely.
I think, and I didn't mention this before in my quick thoughts, but it is something I do want to mention, and that is, I think that the acting in this movie is just top-notch, great, except for the kid is so annoying to me. Every time he opens his mouth, I just want him to shut up. And don't get me wrong, I think it's an honest performance. I think it's probably a realistic portrayal of how a kid that age would act if he were experiencing all that. I just found him unbelievably annoying, and just like, oh, just smack that kid, and I'm like, really? So like, you've survived, you've been your whole life, you've been on the road where you've been taught since you could walk that anybody you run into is probably going to kill you and eat you, and you still don't know how to use your inside voice. You know what I mean? It's just like, really, you haven't been taught since day one that we have to be really quiet all the time. Right. You know what I mean? So that was just super annoying to me. But again, I think the acting in this movie is unbelievably awesome for the all the way across, including him. I just didn't like it.
I think it was very early on. It was very, very like, if not his first movie, like one of his first things. So not that excuses it, but yeah, there's that. So, all right. So speaking of the kid, a quote from him is one of my next points, and I'm pretty sure this happens before their sort of encounter at the mansion, shall we say. He has this, conversation about, because they just had this run-in with the Garrett Dillahunt gang, as it were, and they're obviously, they're cannibals, and they came upon those people in the barn and they killed themselves rather than be cannibalized. And so it's weighing on his mind. And he has this moment with his dad where he asks, we would never eat anyone, would we? And I'm like, I feel like this has probably been ground that's covered before, but he just sort of needs it to be like stressed, like, you are correct, son. That is why we are hungry all the time, is because we will not. There's like, there's like a, I don't know. It's tough because if you were starving and there was someone like, let's discuss cannibalism for a hot second, shall we? Are you shall we?
Let's do it. Do you want pro
well,
or con?
Here's the thing. I think it's circumstantial. Like, the circumstances are what you need to think about. So killing people in order to eat them, no. But if you're waiting for, being rescued from the side of a mountain in the Andes, and you've got,
Are you with the soccer team?
So, in that instance, you're just trying to hold out until, you know what I mean? I think that's kind of morally ambiguous and a little bit more, I get it. And I don't know, like, in that, if I was that desperate that I'm going to starve and there's perfectly, I wouldn't like it.
What are you saying? I mean, am I gonna like not be able to take long car rides with you? Is that what you're suggesting here? I mean,
I'm just saying that I think it's one of those taboos that it comes up in movies like this, where it's like, this is the end of the road for human morality, and I get it. Like, what that Marauder group was doing is like the ultimate in the morality, like the break from morality, because they weren't, like the soccer team in the Andes, buried alive. These were two people that died in the crash, and they're in the snow and the ice, so it's not. So they're chilled. They've got fresh meat on ice, and there's nothing wrong with them. And they had to come to the decision after exhausting everything they had. Now, these marauders or whatever, they have exhausted everything they had because there's no food left in the world. But they're creating food. They're not happening upon, like, dead people that were in a barn somewhere, and this might be a little spoiled, so we gotta cook it, So, like, I'm just saying, like, they've gone to there's the moral failing of cannibalism, but then there's like the super moral failing of creating the food to become a cannibal. You know what I mean? It's still murder no matter what. So
but you're specifically killing other human beings because you're going to eat them.
They didn't do anything wrong, except they've got a little bit of extra meat on their ankles, and you think they'd be tasty. I mean,
oh boy, a well done human ankle, I gotta tell you.
It's like ribs, man.
An ALT, an ankle lettuce and tomato sandwich. Oh man, there's nothing like it. Well, and you're right. You used a really good word, and that's taboo. And that's, cannibalism, that is always kind of the thing that's just like, no matter where you go on the planet, pretty much everybody's like, yeah, you can't do that. And yet it makes it there's something like, it's like, because it's forbidden, right? It's that whole thing of like, you're not supposed to do that. That kind of makes you want to do it, and so there is in a lot of fantasy stories, and certainly in a lot of the apocalyptic stories, you will often have that thrown in, and it's sort of like you said, it's sort of like, it's either the end of the moral code, or it's like a kind of like decadency. that like, look at them, there's no rules with them, there's nothing that they won't do,
Yeah.
type thing. And right, I mean, like the soccer team thing, that was a very specific kind of emergency
Correct.
situation
Right.
type thing. So I suppose they get more of a pass than like the Garrett Dillahunt gang,
Yeah.
which are just like, hey, I'm going to shoot that guy and eat him,
Right. And the
Um,
soccer team,
but
they didn't kill their
yeah,
teammates.
right,
They just were already dead. And they
right,
while they were morally dealing with, do we do this? It's not like they were sitting out and spoiling or whatever,
yeah,
It wasn't
exactly,
like a
yeah,
quick
yeah,
decision they had to come to or whatever. They did have the ability to sort of wrestle with it a bit.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and the other thing I like too about that sequence when the kid asks him that in that annoying tone that he has is it's for me it's sort of this is where McCarthy is sort of laying out the limited moral compass that we're going to get,
right.
that this is kind of what differentiates them from everybody else they're going to meet on the road, is that they will not eat people.
Correct. Yeah.
You know what I mean? That and the whole thing of the fire inside them, and the kid, I think he also in this scene, doesn't he also keep at his the man, we're the good guys, right?
Yes. 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 Yes.
And the man is sort of trying to reassure him, go, yeah, we're the good guys. That, and like you said, that's why we're hungry.
Right. Well,
Because we're not them.
right. And it's also, a lot of these questions come up because in order for them to get away from those marauders, he had to kill a man.
Oh yeah.
So it sort of creates this moral quandary. He killed someone, but we would never eat them. You know what I mean? Like, it's,
Hmm.
I did this to save you. I did this. I had to protect you and all this other stuff. But of course, the little boy who doesn't have as much experience with these sort of moral quandaries, he just
Hmm.
asks a million questions about, like, well, what's the difference? Like,
Yeah.
how can he says those are bad people because they kill people, but we killed someone. How could, but you're
Right.
still saying we're the good guys.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and what I think is a real interesting part about this the way that this story unfolds is that you're right. Like the kid is asking, like, how do we know we're good guys? And the man's response is, because we don't act like these are people that we're constantly running away from. Yet
Mhm.
as the movie goes on, the man starts to act more and more like the people that they're running away from.
Right.
With when they do meet people that are not necessarily going to kill them and take their stuff, the man is not super nice.
Nope.
And the kid, picks up on it, and he's
Right.
questioning, like, wait a minute, I thought you said we were the good guys.
Right.
And so I think that's an interesting choice, that clearly we're supposed to believe that these are the good guys, right?
Yeah.
They're the protagonists of the story, and yet the man, as the movie is progressing and he's getting sicker and sicker and more desperate to protect his the boy, his moral compass is not quite reading true north as much as it had been.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something the boy will question. Like, as you said, like, as they meet people and move through the world, like, the boy will question, like, well, what's the difference between,
Yeah.
being, how can we call ourselves the good guys if we're gonna be mean to this old man or this
Yeah.
other person? It's
We're not going to give them some food even though we can spare it.
right.
And of course, the man's like, we can't spare it. What are you, crazy?
Yeah.
And so yeah, but the kid doesn't, again, like you said, the kid just doesn't have the maturity, the experience of, like, yeah, I got to think long term here,
Right.
and we can help everybody.
And the subtleties of it too, like the gray areas. He's a kid. He doesn't, things are black and white. You're good
Yeah.
or you're not good. And
Right.
he doesn't understand those sort of, like, things that sit in the middle.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And let me ask you, does what is the scene there, is the we would need people, is that the Coke scene, or is that later when they find the can of Coke?
I think the can of Coke is after they're when they run out of the mansion.
It's after the mansion.
Yeah,
is
it's
it?
definitely after that, because
Okay.
I know, because when I did a rewatch on Friday, I stopped during like the mansion scene, and I know that happened after. So yes.
Okay. All right. So yes, because I didn't make that one of my points, but I do want to talk about it. So.
Oh, okay. So speaking of the mansion scene, that's your number 3. Let's talk about that. Are you emotionally upset that they went inside?
Okay. Let me just, like my comment. I think it does. I like what I wrote, and I literally my comment is the mansion ! And then I put in all caps. Why would you ever go in there? But that's I think what I should have changed it, and what I should have put is why would you ever stay in there? And don't get me wrong, I get it. You're going to explore every building, structure, outhouse, hen house, whatever, because like you said, people stick stuff in weird places. You never know when you're going to come across that, jumbo can of pudding, right? I mean,
Exactly.
there's so many things you got to look everywhere. But as soon as you go in that house and you see the pile of shoes and the pile of backpacks and shirts and get the hell out of there. I mean, it's like so obvious this is not an abandoned house. You know what I mean? There's people here, and they clearly are collecting other people's stuff, which I don't think they're just holding it for them until they come back to get it. I mean, so it's just like, come on, man, your spidey sense has to go off. And I guess we're supposed to think that it's like, look, he's just hungry, and you know what, he knows that they're in a bad position, but he's gonna push it and try and find anything to eat that he can. But at the same time, you're like, dude, no. Have you ever seen a horror movie?
Well, and you have to understand too, like, you and I have seen this before, where it's like people who like survive in the apocalypse, and then like you're 3 years in and like, listen, you're no dummy, you've survived this long, you should know better, kind of thing.
Yes.
Which is what you would apply to this moment here. And yes, you're hungry, but you also, his main thing has got to be keeping his son safe. He has said that that's his number one thing forever. So he goes in, he stays in there, he keeps the boy with him, and it's like, oh my God, the fact that they actually go into the basement,
yes,
is like, to me, is the stupidest part of the whole thing. You know what I mean? It's this whole journey into that house is such an error in judgment. It makes more sense as soon as you realize that it's got people in it. They should have, how after they flee and they end up like, well, we're gonna have to wait until it's dark to get away. Otherwise, they've got an eye out. They know someone was in the house, so they're keeping an eye out, and they're gonna see us unless we get away in the middle of the night.
Right.
That's what they should have done. They should have waited around on the outskirts to see if anybody shows up. I mean, what are they in a hurry for? They got no place to go.
Yeah.
So they should have waited. You approach slowly, you see inside. It's obvious that, like you said, the signs are there that people have been in that house recently, whether you want to read the little clues that are given you. Which, to me, I thought the imagery of that was amazing, because if you've ever seen any kind of movie or documentary or anything that talks about the Holocaust, those images are so haunting when you see like the rooms of shoes that belongs to the people that brought into the concentration camps. When they're first put on the trains, they were told, we're bringing you to this place, and a lot of people brought suitcases. So there's suitcases and personal belongings and the clothes and the shoes, and it's all in just piles and piles and piles. And that's what it made me think of when I saw those. So it's amazing that he stayed, like, the fact that they got to the point where he's like, the crux of the moment when they're upstairs and he puts the gun in the boy. He's like, he basically was like 5 seconds away from killing his son. Yeah. When he put his son in that position to begin with. It's it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, and I think too, when they go down into the cellar, which again is folly of folly. It's just like, oh my God, you're just asking to get killed now,
Right.
you know.
Especially because it's locked. You know what I mean?
It's locked, and I see his point of view of like, well, there must be something down there that they don't want other people to get. So he's thinking, maybe it's a root cellar and they've got, canned food or something, right? Something that he can take and eat type thing.
Yeah.
And so, but once they get down there and there's like 10 people and they're all like, have various parts of their bodies already cut off and they're just like, ah, you know what I mean? You're just like, oh my God, dude, you are just asking to get killed, right? And then,
I know.
so they get out, and of course, right when they get back upstairs, that's when the party returns to the house, the owners.
God.
And so they run upstairs because they don't have any choice. That's the only place they can go. And they go into the bathroom. And did you notice that in the sink of that bathroom, there is another human head?
I don't remember that.
It's in the water. You can just see like its nose like sticking out of the surface of the water, and it's very bloody, reddish, red kind of brownish red water. So, and I don't know why they're letting a head soak in there, but they are.
Oh my God.
But yeah, and again, like the Dillahunt thing, it's quick.
Yeah.
I mean, they do not dwell on this at all because again 2009 different time, different what the censors would allow for a theatrical release, to want to make sure you get an R rating and not anything worse, that type of thing.
Right.
So that's very quick. But it is there, and you're right. I mean, he first of all, he gives the gun to the boy and says, "You take this, and when they come to get you, you kill yourself." And the kid's like, "I can't do that."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna pass.
Right.
And, so
and he's
then
using
you're
his outside voice while he's doing that. Don't forget.
God, I know. It's just like,
just can't shut up.
Papa. Oh man.
God.
Every time he said that, this just shows me all I could think of is Nelson from The Simpsons going, "Papa." Because he had the whole thing looking for his dad. But anyway, and so then you're right. So then he takes the gun back and he literally puts it right up to his kid's forehead, and is like you said, he is like 2 seconds away from just blowing his brains out and say, because you're not gonna feel a thing. It's gonna be over for you, and the only thing that stops him is the fact that some of the the menu, shall we say, has like pushed their way out through the door in the trap door in the floor, and created a ruckus to the point where all of the people that are living in the house go into the kitchen to go, what the hell's going on? And that gives them their opening to get the hell out of there. So
yeah.
Intense,
yes.
Unbelievably intense.
Yeah.
But like again, like we were saying with the hang people, when they come in and they see that big pile of shoes, dude, why are you not looking at them? Why are you not? Is there a pair here that's better than the ones I have? If you're truly scavenging, why are you not doing that?
Or I always feel like if the shoes that you're wearing are perfectly fine, don't you think you want a spare?
Right.
To bring with you?
Yeah.
I would.
I mean, it's like there's no place there's not going to be any Foot Lockers on the way here where you can stop and get another pair, So yeah, and if you get a hole in the sole of one of your shoes, there's no cobblers anywhere that's going to fix it for you. You know what I mean? So you're right. Whenever you come across something like that, you got to check it out. And the man is it always comes back to hunger for me in this movie, and that he does a lot of things tactically, and it's like, look, I'm just looking for something to eat.
Yes.
And
I get that. And if I were that hungry, I don't know what my, you know what I mean? What would I do? What would my choices be? And it's hard to judge them. But there are definitely some moments where he's got lapse of like judgment there, for sure,
of like just survival things, that scavenger things that for someone that has been out there as long as he has, like you said, you would think he would know.
Yeah. Anyway, but that was definitely a very tense moment. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So leaving there, my next point, my number 4, is the moment when the boy realizes that his dad is not in great shape.
Yeah.
And so he's like sort of sensing that all of these lessons that he's being taught, he's gonna have to implement them a little sooner than I think he was probably hoping to. And there's this really great scene where they are waking up in the morning after finding refuge somewhere for the night.
I think they're in a church.
Yeah, and in the morning he starts coughing, and he's coughing so bad that he's like, we see it, and we see that he's coughing up blood, so he's got some type of respiratory ailment, like a COPD or something like that. Consumption, yeah. And you see the little boy is like laying on his side, but his face is facing the camera, and he is wide awake. And has
could you sleep while that guy's hacking up his lungs? I don't think so.
And I think his look on his face is just like he's realizing there's more to like his illness. Like maybe he's been coughing for a while, but there's something. It shifted. Yeah. There's a change to the coughing, and he's worried. He's like really worried, especially since like part of the responsibility of moving forward would be, if something happened to his dad, he would have to keep going, on his own, and he'd have the gun, and he already said, I can't do it. I can't, fire the gun. And it's like, so all of that is sort of weighing on his head, is the responsibility of having to do all of those things, which he already said, I'm not sure I can do them. Plus, he wouldn't have his dad around. So all of that, he just looks like such a scared little boy in that moment. And it's heartbreaking to see. And I thought that was a really good, like, it's definitely a point in the movie where there's a pivot in the boy's like thinking and how he sort of approaches the rest of his time. So I just wanted to notate that. So that's my number 4.
Yeah, and I think too, even before we get to that scene, there are instances when we see the man coughing, although not nearly as severely as that attack hits him. But and in some of the flashbacky stuff too, I believe we see him smoking, and we see him when they get to the bunker. He is smoking like hand-rolled cigarettes, whether they're wacky tobacco or just regular tobacco, I don't know, but he's clearly a smoker. So my thought is, maybe he's got like the lung cancer or
a little bit of the lung cancer,
and again, there's no doctors, there's no treatments or anything, and it's just sort of running its course, right? And so and they do make, I thought they made a really good they did a really good job of not just like springing that on us where it's like, oh, hey, look at that, and now he's coughing up blood. It's like, no, if you're paying attention, you can see that he has, something's wrong with him from the beginning. And it's just sort of getting worse and progressing, And you're right, like when the kid is there and he's just, you just see him and his eyes are wide open as he's listening to his dad, just cough and cough and cough and cough and cough. And it's that like that kind of coughing that it's not like, oh, I got something stuck in my throat real quick and I'm okay. You know what I mean? It's like, no, there's like he's having like real breathing issues, that kind of cough. It's a wet cough, right? And so you're like, uh-oh, when that happens. So you're like, that's not good, So and then, like I said, I don't know where it happens, but at some point they're in like an office building or something, and he's rooting around this soda pop machine, and he finds a can of Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And opens it up. I notice he doesn't bother to wipe off the can at all. He just hands it right to his kid and said, drink it down, kid, dust and everything, right? And I just couldn't help but just go, my thoughts drifted back to Carl eating the, obviously well-expired 10-pound can of pudding, and the kids from World Beyond eating the, hopelessly out of date beefaroni
Yep.
cans that they found in that show. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, that kid has to be like 8 at
Mm-hmm.
least, right?
Yep.
And he was born after the apocalypse. So that means that can of Coca-Cola is at least 8 years old.
Yep.
And again, I don't think it would kill you to eat it, but to drink it, but oh my God, I mean, it just it had to taste like ass, right?
Right. Right. I mean, considering that they have, that they're eating bugs where they can
They're, eat-
find them.
they're eating like they have like a baggie full of like crickets that they're sharing with each other. Yes,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
right.
So I'm like, I think his taste buds aren't nearly as defined as ours are. So to
Yeah.
him, it may taste delicious. I don't really know.
Yeah, right. Well, it's got to be sweet,
Right.
you would, but I mean, I don't know if you've ever like had a can of soda or you found one that is multiple years old, but in many cases the water evaporates over
Oh,
time and
yeah.
then you're left with kind of just the thick sludgy syrup. But when he pops that top, I mean, it's like carbonated like nobody's business, right? And the kid even points out that like it's bubbly,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, really? Would it really be that good? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think this is just wishful thinking, on the filmmaker's part of like we're gonna like give them like one little moment of not sheer bleak end of the world
Mm-hmm.
terror,
Yeah.
and so they got the lucky Coca-Cola can and it tasted
Yeah.
good, but
the the thing is, okay, so the Coca-Cola can, so that scene happens in the book.
it does. Okay.
Yes. But having it be like fresh, or not fresh, but like to still have some bubble to it and stuff like that. I don't know how accurate that would be.
Yeah.
I'd have to reread that scene and see, but I mean that I think they took a little creative license there. It certainly didn't. It looked like it was like flat as flat could be, and
Hmm.
that's what you would expect after all
Yeah.
that time. But
Yeah.
what do we know?
Well, again, you're right. You never know, right? I mean, it's anything is possible. But I just kind of chuckled when that scene happened because my thoughts immediately went to Carl sitting on that roof, chowing down on this like salmonella laced pudding, and then obviously all of the high school kids from the world beyond when they get to the place where the tire fire is and they
Yeah.
find in the office building a couple cans literally of like Chef Boyardee beefaroni
Yep.
that has to be like 20 years old and they're like, oh, let's eat that. It's like, what are you nuts?
And whenever anybody has something that's canned and they're like, hey, it's not fresh, but it's still sustenance, I literally all I can think of, I just physically go to the terror
the
and
terror,
and
yeah.
have like, and yes, that was a completely different like situation with the cans, but I just think about like, I don't know how long I would trust stuff in cans,
Right, yeah,
I think
no, no,
once
no.
it's like, I think that's a moment where expiration date might actually mean something, you know.
Yes. Well,
Any,
especially when it's an expiration date that is like multiple years past,
yeah,
right? You go a week past, I think you're probably going to be okay. You can roll those
right,
dice and you're
right,
you're you're pretty good. But
right.
when it's like, hey, this expired in 2008. What year is it now? 2026. I don't think I'm going to eat that. I mean, botulism is a horrible way to die.
It is,
Okay, so
and you don't want to go that way.
no, you don't. But anyway, yeah. So they that happens, and then I think they go to his childhood home. Uh,
Yeah, and then I think the childhood home happens after the old man, though, don't you think?
no, no,
I
because
can't
they
remember.
they go to the bunker first, and then they meet the old man because they got all the food when they meet the old man. So
That's true.
so I think they go to the his hit like the man's where the man grew up,
Yeah.
and yeah, okay, so in the book, I wanted to ask you is the kid like hallucinating with seeing the other boy or because in the movie it looks pretty real.
Yeah. No, I think that it's real in the because it's because as you see it, that he saw him because it's the family. The
Yeah,
boy
see,
is, yeah.
okay, so that is real because yeah, they kind of give it away at the end there that the family's been following them, but like why didn't yeah I don't know, it just that whole scene just has a weird vibe to me because the kid is just freaking out and the dad is just like, no, there's no way you saw anybody, come on. And I'm like, really, you're not just like gonna check and like look around the corner just to see, and you know what I mean, it's like, really, there's no way that you could have
Yeah.
seen anybody. I mean, and so I was wondering in the story that McCarthy writes, is it presented more as the kids just having like a vision, or was it real? But okay, so you're thinking it's the family's kid.
If memory serves, it's presented the way it is in the movie, which is it feels very real, and then it's confirmed that it's real later when
Later,
they're
okay.
like, we were following you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
What did you think too about the boy like telling the dad like, I don't think we should be doing this, when the
Oh,
dad's like walking through his old house and pointing out all this stuff, and the
yeah.
kid's just like, we should not be here.
Right. I think that he has probably caught his dad like crying,
Hmm.
scenes that we haven't seen, but I think he's caught his father crying or whatever, or maybe he's asked questions about the past and his dad has been like, I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to talk about it. So maybe there's already some tension there. But I think that there is some type of history that makes him kind of leery of the idea of his dad wading like into like a sea of memories by going into the house that he grew up in.
Okay.
Just feels
Hmm.
like it's an emotional like trap, like mind trap. That's how that all reads to me.
Okay. Yeah. No, I get that. I kind of read it a little bit as it, it's kind of like, I agree with you that the kid has clearly seen the dad, like, kind of like he'll have these nostalgic flashes when he finds stuff, and he'll kind of break down and lose it a little bit.
Mm,
And I think the there might be a little bit of the kid is worried of like, okay, this is kind of a bad place for you to dwell in, and you might kind of decide that you're done with this world,
mm-hmm.
and so surrounding yourself with all of the things of the way the world used to be, and the old world. And what does the man say to the boy at one point? It's like, you must think I'm some far out, weirdo or stranger. And the kid's like, yeah, a little bit. And I kind of had that idea of like, the kid is like, can sense that, like, it's not dwelling on how things used to be is not helpful for anybody.
Mm,
And so we should not waste, time here. We should keep moving. But it's weird because that's the only place in the whole show where the kid's like, yeah, we should not do this.
yeah.
The kids pretty much will go wherever that guy wants to take him. Hey kid, you want to go down into the creepy cellar and see the half-eaten people? Sure, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Hey kid, you want to go talk to the cannibals on the hunting truck? Yeah, I'll do that. But here he's like, this is probably not a good idea. So anyway, I just wanted to ask you about that, what you thought of that why he was so reluctant, and sort of like, it gets to the point where the dad's like, if you want to wait outside,
Yeah. You don't have to be in here with me.
and that's when he sees the kid. That's when
Yeah.
he sees the other boy. So
I think only because since it has the emotional, connection, I think it's just because of it being the emotional minefield that you think it's going to be. I
okay,
think that's why he thinks it's a bad idea.
yeah, okay,
So,
cool.
yeah. All right. So we did my number 4 with the coughing. So let's talk
Hmm.
about your number 4, which they find that the bunker,
Fallout shelter, yeah.
which was an amazing time period. But then the dad freaks out and they leave, but they
Mm-hmm.
bring as much stuff as they can. They find a different cart, which is a lot bigger than their old cart.
Oh yeah.
And so they set out after spending, I would say they were in the bunker maybe 2 days. Does it feel like?
Oh,
It
I
wasn't.
think they're there longer than that.
You think so? Okay.
I think they're there, yeah, long enough for them to eat and really kind of recover a little of their strength, and kind of, I mean, clearly they're both malnourished,
Yeah.
and so it can't be corrected instantly, but just the fact that they're eating, actual food on a regular basis is going to help them. And so again, they get a little more vitality, shall we say. And I mean, how about the scene when they take a bath and you just see the kind of like gray water going down the drain, just showing you how dirty they were, right? And the kid brushes his teeth and he uses like half the tube of toothpaste, and it's like, clearly this is probably the first time you brushed your teeth in a long time, kid,
if at all.
Right. And then he trims his beard and he gives himself a haircut and he cuts the kid's hair. I mean, I think they spend a good, maybe like a week in that bunker. And before you're right, they hear the noise, they hear the dog, which kind of tells me it's probably the family, right? That's up there. And so they then push on and leave. And so they're on the road again, and this is where Robert Duvall gets his cameo for the movie. And they come upon this, the character that in the movie is credited as Old Man, but we do actually come to find out that his name is Eli. He is the only character in the movie that actually has a name that we know or we learn. And he, what would you say, is like cataracts or something, where he doesn't really be able to see all that well?
Yeah. And you have to think too, like, I mean, he is an older man. They already have sight problems to begin with once you get to be a certain age. But you got to figure too, like, we're working on like going off of the kid's age, we're looking at like a good 9 years maybe, where people aren't taking like vitamins or having a well balanced, so like no vitamins, no vitamin D, so he's, old person eyes are just deteriorating. But yes, the way his eyes looked, my brain went like cataracts or some other type of degenerative eye problem,
because they're almost like ghoul eyes from Walking Dead. They're almost kind of grayed over, or whited over, and so we kind of get this moral dilemma where the boy wants to, like, oh, let's feed him, let's help him out, let's give him some of our food, and the man's like, are you crazy? And finally they do he gives him like a can of like fruit cocktail or something. And the old dude just downs it to the point where he spits up a big chunk of it, right? Where I'm sure his stomach is like, whoa, what is this?
They even said that's the thing too, when in I think it happened in Band of Brothers, when they
liberate the camp.
When they liberate the camp, they're like, they can only give them a little bit of food at a time, because when you're that emaciated, when you're that hungry, it can actually be worse for you. You can't have like a full plate with a steak or whatever. It's got to be like a measured amount, a little at a time.
I think if you eat like way too much, like it could kill you if you're in that state, because your system just can't hack it. And so then they end up they end up having dinner with the old man, and they spend the night, and they kind of, the old man and the man have a little discussion. They kind of talk about things. The old man mentions that he had a little boy at one time, and he never thought he would ever see a child again, which kind of suggests that children are scarce in this new reality, which makes sense. Why would you be having babies, right? I mean, that's, Charlize Theron. I mean, that's, she is not at all interested in raising a child in this crazy world. Why would you
Yeah,
want to,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and so on. And so it's kind of like a little children of men kind of thing there, that it's
Mm,
like kids are scarce and rare. And that's how I like them, by the way, is rare. Um, it had this little foreshadowing for the part that they didn't put in the movie that's in the book. But and so, you know, they're talking, and this is kind of where the old man kind of puts his theory out about what happened, why the world ended.
mm-hmm.
And you know, the way he describes it, it's kind of like is man-made. It's some sort of thing that we kind of caused ourselves, because he says, I knew it was coming, and a lot of people thought it was a con job, but I always believed. And so you're kind of like, well, that doesn't really track with what the man said, when it was sort of like an instantaneous, you know, flash in the sky, clock stopped, and that was the end of everything. So I don't know. But I thought I wrote this line down because I really liked it, where the man
Yeah,
asks him, did you, if you knew it was coming, did you, you know, plan for it? Did you know what you needed to do? And the old man goes, what would you do? Even if you knew what to do, you wouldn't know what to do.
yeah, yeah,
And I, you know, again, very, I think that's a really great line when you're dealing with the kind of the end of everything, that if you knew it was coming, you know, even if you knew, you wouldn't really know. And what could you do, you know?
yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah,
yeah, so I like that. So
yeah.
what were your thoughts of the Robert Duvall 4 minutes?
I think 4 minutes. I think it's like I was saying before we started, that these little encounters are to highlight the lessons that the boy needs to learn in order to function. And one of those lessons that I think his dad is unintentionally giving him is the lessons of, what does it mean to be a good person in this world, because he doesn't know any different. He's much more innocent and immature, as we've said. So, his dad is a little more hardened by experience. It's very
Hmm.
it's very Rick and Carl Grimes. Why can't we help them? Why can't we? And he just doesn't understand, like, if we're the good people, we're not acting good, because they would want someone on the side of the road to leave a can of food for them. So why can't they do it for someone else?
Right.
And children are very, like, they've got very, I don't want to say pie in the sky, but like, they're very idealistic. And it's very, like I said at the beginning, like, very black white. He doesn't see those areas of gray where it's like someone could be very nice, but also, I don't mean to do this, but I think our next encounter kind of highlights that. Some people, when they're desperate, just do things that aren't terrible but are considered bad, and it's just out of desperation. They just do what they got to do, and it doesn't make them bad people. They're just reacting to a bad situation. And and so he's calling out his dad on that. So it's a great formative scene where, he wants to be generous. He wants to ask questions. Like, he, even when they're walking and he holds his hand, and his
Hmm.
dad's like, don't hold his hand.
Don't hold his hand.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, where's the harm in that? He wants the connection with other people, because the only person that he knows is his dad. So
Right.
he wants that connection. But the dad, who has met and has known other people, knows,
Mhm.
you know that really it's humans that are the worst that you're going to encounter. But the kid doesn't know that,
Right.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
he and thankfully, like, it he doesn't have that trained out of him before his dad passes away, kind of thing. Like, that's one of the sort of hopeful lines that you would have at the end of this movie, is like, he's still in that frame of mind of, we don't have anything to speak of, but we have something small, And if we can share that something small with another person, doesn't that make the world a little bit of a better place, even just for that 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Where's the harm in holding the hand of an old man who can't even really see you to begin with,
Yeah.
So, it's a very formative scene for the kid. I think he gets so much more out of it than what's on the surface,
Yeah, I agree. I did like when the man basically tells the kid, "Oh, and no is the answer to the question." And the kid's like, "What question?" And he's like, "We can't keep him." Because the man is, you're right. He's just adamant on, what, we're not a charity. We're not picking up people and building a little community. That's not what we're doing out here at all. And the boy doesn't understand. Like you said, the boy, like, he's like, well, wait, we're the good guys. Should we not help this person because we can? Isn't that the whole point of being the good guys? And like you said, it's black and white to him, whereas the dad is like, yeah, we can't give away our food, even though we have a lot right now, because down the road we're gonna need that food for ourselves, and the kid just can't process that. He's just not old enough, does like you said, not mature enough to really grasp that kind of idea.
And kids never really have a sense of time. So you could say, like, we need to prepare for, like, 6 weeks from now, and they're like, they don't even know what that means.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So
you tell a 9-year-old about something that happened to them when they were 5, and they look at you like, what are you talking about? Because that's like half of their lifetime ago,
Right.
and they're just like,
Right.
what do you mean, So it's definitely a thing. But real interesting, Duvall comes in, reads his lines, and then the next day he's gone, right? I mean, he they there's no violence there. They part on good terms, right? And that he doesn't try and get them, they don't try and get him, and really he is the first person that they have met on the road that is not a threat.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and
that's correct.
Interesting. So.
Yeah. So next up on my list, my number 5 is another interaction that they have, and this was great because like I said, I love this movie, but it has been a little bit since I had watched it last, and Viggo and Charlize and Robert Duvall, definitely Guy Pearce at the end,
Molly
stuff
Parker.
like that. Yeah, I absolutely, positively, totally forgot about the Michael K. Williams scene.
What? You love The Wire?
I actually I don't.
Well, I mean, it's in Baltimore, but still.
Yeah. So they get to it's interesting because they get to the sea, which was their goal, and he's a little bit sick. The little boy has like a little cold or a flu or something.
Yeah.
Something that, something just passing through him. And while they're at the sea, there's like an abandoned ship that's a little bit off the beach.
It's like run aground or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's like, well, you stay here. He gives him the gun. He's like, you watch our stuff. I'm going to swim out to there and look. And I totally get it, because actually the one thing that most ships like that will have is a first aid kit.
Right.
That might have been passed over by people who are like, their first thing they're looking for is food, obviously.
Yeah, or a minimum, they might find like a bottle of aspirin or ibuprofen or something that would help the kid with his fever or whatever. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly. But while he's gone, someone comes up, and while the boy is asleep, and he's sick, so he has like a really deep sleep, and they steal all of their stuff.
Everything.
And it's everything, including like their tent.
Oh, yeah.
They take
their
everything.
Tent, they take the man's shoes, the car. I mean, literally, the boy is like everything. Lying in the sand, and everything is gone. Yeah. He still has the gun, though.
To be fair, and I'm not making excuses for him. Like I said, like, he makes the choice. He's a good person who just made a choice based on He didn't have anything else. He was looking for food, he's looking for supplies. And he left the boy. He didn't hurt the boy in any way, didn't wake him up. He literally just very quietly took all of their things and left. But the father is so mad, and they, he had left his clothes at a different part of the beach, so at least he has clothes to put on, but he's got no shoes. But he's like, look, if we go fast, we can, you can hear him sort of making we could probably catch up to him. So they leave, their whole point was to get to the ocean, and now they have to turn around and go back the way they came. So they go back, and they chase him down, and they finally get to him. He's got the gun, though. Mm-hmm. And they have this whole threatening scene. And it's so sad. It's such a sad scene because I feel like the father, like, again, in the scene with the old man and the scene here, and then there'll be another interaction that comes up soon when he uses the flare gun. He's slowly losing some of his humanity, and you can see it a little bit at a time. So it's almost a blessing that he ends up passing away, because the kid can take his positive outlook and sort of move on or whatever. But part of his descent into losing part of his humanity is he makes him take his clothes off. He's like, he takes all of their stuff back, but he also takes all of that man's clothes and his shoes.
Oh, he does?
And leaves him just naked on the side of the road, which is just so, in any time period, that would be demoralizing and sad. But this is just the air could kill you in this apocalyptic environment. So he even says to him, "You're killing me, man. You might as well shoot the bullet at him."
Yeah.
Because he's gonna die. He's not gonna make it. And and the boy is so upset. He said, "Papa, we don't need to do this. He didn't hurt me. Didn't do it." You know what I mean? He's trying to make a case, and the guy's like, he's so upset. You can't, please don't do me like this, man. Don't do me like this, man. That's what he keeps saying over and over again. And it's Michael K. Williams, obviously, from The Wire and so many other really great roles. And this is just such a haunting portrayal. And what makes it even more haunting is that they have this moment, they leave him behind, and they go off, and he gives in to the boy, and he's like, son of a bitch. And they go back to where he was, and he's gone. He's not there. But they leave his clothes and his shoes behind, and they put one can of food on top of it. It's a little late, because he's obviously had to go find shelter somewhere or whatever, and who knows if he even made it. At this point, you have to assume he's probably gonna die, or if he's not dead already. But yeah, just that scene is just so haunting. And of course, Michael K. Williams is amazing. He's such a great actor, and brings such a gravity to that scene. And it's just wonderful and terrible all at the same time. So what were your thoughts on that scene with the thief? You can just call him that.
That's what he's credited as. So yes.
Was he? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that is his credit. Michael Kenneth Williams is Thief is his official credit. So it's like you said, it's further example of how the man is, sliding closer and closer into bad guy territory.
He's becoming his own personal version of Rick Grimes.
But he really is. If he could just put a little blood on his face and dirt, he would be him. Entirely. And you're right. The boy just doesn't understand. And I think at one point when the man makes him take off all of his clothes, he says something like, "I'm gonna leave you like you left us."
With nothing.
Where again with nothing. Yeah. And despite not just the thief but the boy too pleading with the man of like, why are we
Yeah.
doing this? This is not what good guys do. The man's just, no, he's not having any of it. This man's, the guy stole all of our stuff, so we're going to do the same thing to him. That's fair, right? That's justice. That's tipping the scales back. And again, the kid doesn't get it, because the kid sees this guy as, look, he's just like everyone else. He's hungry, and he saw some stuff, and he did what he had to do. Why are we punishing him for that? Because as he points out, he didn't hurt the kid. He totally could have. Right? He could have killed that kid and been having a hamburger when the man came back, right? I mean, the kid, like you said, the kid it's got some kind of fever, say he throws up, he's burning up, so he's got some kind of bug, and he does what we all do when you have that. Eventually you just crash. And it's one of those real heavy sleeps where you could, like say a wood chipper could be outside your window chipping away at the trees, and you wouldn't hear
What
it.
do you mean?
Exactly, right. And so the kid's dead to the world, so that guy could have easily killed him or taken him with or whatever, and he didn't. So yet the man is just like, nope, we're this is frontier justice here, and we're just going to leave you literally, naked to the world with nothing, and good luck, and I guess the man's thinking is, I could have killed you, so I reckon you got a bargain, as Max says in Mad Max 2 to the gyro captain. The arrangement was I wouldn't kill you, and then when the gyro captain starts to complain, Max goes, I reckon you got a bargain, didn't you? And that's what the man's attitude is, right? And again, like you said, it's further blurring the line between good guy and bad guy. Where now the man is definitely in that gray area between the two.
Yeah.
So yeah, powerful scene, and the moment when they go back and they leave like his little pile of clothes, and then the kid puts the little can of, I don't know, something, sardines or something on top of the coat or whatever it is, and they just leave it. And I mean, the kid it's coming from the heart, but like part of you is like, oh, you're gonna need that can of food.
I know, but it's like even though it's coming from, it's like, it's almost like the kid has to do it to feel whole. You know what I mean? Like, what they did was wrong, and he feels like doing that rights the wrong. Like,
it'll like balance out the ledger.
in some
with
way.
That guy.
Yeah.
Even though, like you said, that guy's long gone, probably already dead. Right? No, someone eventually will find that can of food. Probably the family that coming after them. But it's not to be that guy.
Yeah.
So.
My number 5 is the absolute heartbreaking scene with the thief. To me, I feel like that is like the thing that kind of broke the boy. Like, the old man was one thing because he really was like no threat, and his dad was like, he wasn't aggressive, he was mostly like verbally aggressive. But this was a scary scene because his dad had the gun out. He was going to shoot this guy. And the guy was literally, in his eyes, in the kid's eyes, he was just doing something that they would have done. They would have grabbed things, or, they're scavenging. That's what this world is all about. So he doesn't understand. And this is the thing that really sort of broke him. And even broke how he looks at his dad, totally. So that's my number 5. So let's talk your number 5.
Yeah, my number 5, actually, it takes place back in the coughing scene that you were talking about with your point number 4. And this is probably my favorite like movie making device that the director and the screenwriter do in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and that is they're in the church and they're spending the night, and we get a little bit more of the man's like narration
Right.
about just like his deep thoughts kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the man has this bit where he goes, I tell him, when you dream about bad things happening, it shows you're still fighting, that you're still alive. It's when you start to dream about good things that you should start to worry. And if you look at the movie from the beginning all the way through, all of the flashbacky stuff from the beginning of the movie that the man has with Charlize Theron,
Mm-hmm.
it's all bad moments with her.
Yeah.
Right? It's either when the end happens, or it's when, they're having the pregnancy and it's not like a smooth pregnancy and she's very upset about it. And of course, the scene where she just like takes off her coat and just walks out into the cold because she's done. And he does, and he's crying and begging her not to leave. And, all of the scenes, right? Like when he, sees the piano and he has the flashback of them playing the piano together. But even that, while it's tender, it's not a happy moment. It's like more of a sad moment. And so all of those sequences, when you hear him kind of state this philosophy, it's like up to that point, he's still fighting, he's still alive, he's okay. But after he says this line, all of the dreams that we see him have are happy moments. Whether it's he and his wife and they're at the concert and they're all decked out, and he kind of, puts his hand on her thigh, right? And it's a very, very, I mean, they're both, into it, and it's a great memory. Or the memory, the dream he has when she's like, they're in the car and she's like sleeping in the passenger seat and they're like out looking at the surf or something, it's like a really idyllic kind of scene, and he kind of like scratches her back and then she smiles. And again, it's a real happy, pleasant dream that memory that he's dreaming.
Yeah.
And it's right at that point where he's hacking up lungs and clearly he's done. And it's not too much longer after that he kind of has his final moment where he tells the boy, yeah, this is it, you're gonna have to go on without me. And the kid's like, I'm sorry, what? But yeah, I really like that line. And if you watch the movie again, after you've seen it and that line's in there, and look at all of the dream sequences that the man has in the movie, it's amazing because they're all bad. He says this line and then they're all good.
Yeah. It is a really great moment. I love that they filmed it in a church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that's also something too, like that layer of filming it in the church was really nice. And it doesn't like sorry. While I hail my own spit there for a moment. But it wasn't like a bang you over the head with like imagery. It was just a couple of moments, couple of images here and there, and it sort of you wonder if spending the night there put him into sort of this reflective state, which is interesting. Yeah, that's a great quote. I love that. So I have like a final moment, but my number 6 and your number 6 are all gathered around the, sort of the final moment with the boy when he meets the family that's been following them, because his dad is, he's already got the lung issue. But as they're heading back toward the sea, they get attacked. Like, he gets shot by an arrow. And he's got the flare gun, which he got from the ship. And he shoots the flare gun in this house. And then he goes running inside to, like, and
finish him off.
Exactly. But he gets there, and the woman, he's like, "Why are you following us?" And the woman was like, "You were following us." And I'm like, I could totally see, like, in this world, like, if there's only so many people and you're feeling very, like, I don't know what, I don't know what to think of this person over there as they approach, like, they could have terrible intentions. So anytime you see other humans, you're wary. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of, like, are they following us? They must be following us. We've been seeing them for a little while. And they may, this is their first time seeing these people, so they're like, they think they're being followed, and the other people are like, you were following us. And it's like, we don't really know which was which. I don't think either one of them were really aware of each other until, they shot at them when they saw them. But anyway, so he gets attacked, he gets shot with an arrow. And then
Mm.
there's this really grueling scene where he pulls the arrow out, and then
Oh,
he uses
man.
a desk stapler to staple his
Oh,
skin together.
man. Yeah.
And I'm like, listen,
Yep.
man, you got to do what you got to do. And then he closes it up with duct tape.
Is there anything you can't
I
do?
mean, well, clearly it can't keep it from getting infected. That's the problem.
Well, he pours like some hydrogen peroxide in there, and they cover it with some kind of a piece of clothing or a bandage or something, and you have to think that they probably found some kind of first aid supplies in the bunker.
Yeah.
Right. So he does, but you're right. Then he just when he pulls that like stapler, and if only they'd made it red, it would have been perfect. But and literally it's like a desk stapler that you could get at Office Depot for like $3.99. And I mean, when he staples that hole, and let's be honest, he has to cut a big hole in his leg to get that arrowhead out.
Yep.
And when he that first staple, the scream that he gives, I mean, what a great acting moment from Vigo. I mean, it's just, you feel it, like my leg hurt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, God, yes.
And then he has to do another one, and you're just like, oh my God, the first one almost killed you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it certainly is not going to help his health status that now he has to deal with that injury and that blood loss and all of the infection possibilities and things that are could come up. That's gonna he's already compromised because of whatever's wrong with him with his respiratory system thing. This is not gonna make it any better, and it's sort of like the beginning of the end for him, really.
Yeah, this is it's sort of like he was fighting off like health issues, but really the arrow is like the final arrow in his heart, kind of. It's very
Right.
metaphorical. But he ends up, they're heading back towards the sea. They're getting very close, and when they get there, he's like, we can't. Because the idea is what they were doing was they got to the sea previously on this show, when they got to the sea,
On The Walking
they
Dead.
continued walking south. So they were at the sea and they continued walking south. So, and to a degree, like, I can sense, like, when it wasn't super foggy, like, it was kind of tranquil water, and there's items that can wash up on the shore, like maybe you can get supplies that way. Who knows? If you boil,
But it's not blue.
well, and if you boil it, you've got like a water source, whatever. Anyway,
Mhm.
the point is they're moving south, so they get to, previously they were continuing to move south, but they get back to the sea after their encounter with the arrow shooters, and he just breaks down because he's in so much pain, and he's like, we'll have to abandon the cart. I can't do it anymore. And so they leave the cart there, and they eventually just end up, they find a spot on the beach, off of the water, like way up, on the shore, and he's just laying there, and he's in bad shape. So he's gonna go, and he's got this little tear coming out, and he's telling the boy all about you've got to take the gun, and he like sort of hands it to him, and you have to be careful, and
Never let anyone take it
yeah,
from
exactly. And he gives him all this last little bits of advice where he's like, and he admits, he's like, this is sooner than I wanted it to be. This is, the arrow kind of hastens what he knew was going to be happening soon as well, but this makes it even, quicker. So he's like, giving him last little bits of advice, and the boy is like, I don't, Papa, I want to go with you. And that's really troubling, is those moments where he knows if he shoots the gun in his mouth, he's been told that they'll be together, that, in the afterlife, it's as it were. So he's like, I want to go with you. I want to go with you. And he's like, no, you can't, whatever. And he's like, they fall asleep. And then when he wakes up, he's gone. His papa's gone. He's died. And he's got the gun. And in that moment, you have to think, like, is he gonna kill himself? Because he said he wants to go with his papa. And, a truly bleak story, if it ended on a truly bleak note, that would definitely be a good one. Kind of like how The Mist ended, which we covered last week. It ended one way, and then 5 seconds later, there was a little bit more information, and it made it even more dark, the way the ending was. So you have to sort of sit there in that moment and wonder, is this boy going to try and join his father? And he doesn't, and he sees someone coming. And it turns out to be this man with in the credits, he's listed as soldier. And he is kind of, I don't know if his outfit looks kind of soldiery or whatever, but he's carrying a rifle. And they have this whole conversation where he's like, you can come with me or you can stay, but if you stay, you're probably going to die, is basically, so these are your choices. You can make this decision, but the boy has the gun on him. And I liked the moment where the guy is like, where he's like, you can't take the gun away from me. He told me to never let anyone take it. And he's like, I don't want to take your pistol. I just don't want you to point it at me, which I thought was a real sort of like pragmatic way to look at it. Because he's like, I don't need your pistol. I have my own weapon. But yeah, so we get this final moment, and he's mulling it over, and he's like, you can come and you can, and then he says, we'll take care of you. And the boy is like, when he uses the word we, the boy is like, it's not just this man, there are other people. So there's kind of like this hopeful moment of like, oh, more than just this guy. And when he says, are there children? And he said, yes, there are. And he's like, oh my God. So he goes back, he has this moment with his dad, he says a final goodbye, pulls the blanket up over his head. And then when he heads back to the soldier/man, there's a woman there and there are 2 young children. And then that's the moment when it becomes clear that the older of the 2, it's hard to tell if it's a boy and a girl or if it's just like 2 boys, but it's not important. The older of the 2 children is a boy, and it's clear that was the boy that he saw when they were in, just based on the outfit, the clothes he's wearing. It's the same outfit. So he wasn't seeing things. And then when they admit that they've been following them, because at some point, they probably wanted both of them to come with, but when it became clear that his father was in poor health and eventually this boy is going to be by himself and they wanted to help him, so they were following him. And then the woman is like, we're so glad to have you, and it's this really delightful sort of, you're almost like, he still is not believing it though. He's in the moment of like, it's too good to be true almost. And then he's looking at them and trying to decide. And then from behind the man, they have a dog, and the dog peeks out and is like, and like cocks his head. And you can see in his face that that's when he knows that everything that they've just said is true, because they heard the dog when they were at the bunker. So he knows that they've been following him, that's that they're not just saying that to get him to join their group. He knows that it's real, and he sees the dog, and that's when he decides. And he doesn't make, and I wrote that in my notes, that's my number 6, is that he doesn't make his final decision to say okay until he sees the dog. So when he says okay, and then that's the end of the movie. So he says okay to go with them, and that's the end of the movie. But there's a couple of really great moments. You included one really great quote from when he first is interacting with the soldier. So let's talk about your quote from number 6.
Sure. Well, and actually, before we do that, I just would point out that if you buy the special edition DVD, there's the director's cut ending where literally like 30 seconds after the boy comes up to join the group, that you see them pull out their knives and they eat him. No, I'm just kidding. Meat's back on the menu, kids. Yeah. No. It's when Guy Pearce, Guy Pearce, I got 2 words for you, pal. It's orthodontist. Yeah. Wow. I mean, they Guy Pearce is obviously an incredibly good-looking human being, and they like go out of their way to like ugly him up in this. And he's walking down the beach, and then the kid sees him, and now this is the first time the kid's on his own, and like 2 seconds later he sees somebody. What are the odds? And they get to talking, and literally the Guy Pearce, who is credited as soldier in the credits, he's like, look, you have a choice. You can either go off on your own, or you can come with us. But if you go off on your own, stay off the road. I mean, that's what the guy tells him. And the boy, after they converse a little further, he just asks him, he goes, how do I know you're one of the good guys? And the soldier goes, you don't, you'll just have to take a shot. And I like that line because it's honest. Mm-hmm. Right. And even if the soldier is a bad guy, it's still an honest response, where he's like, look, I'm not going to convince you. You're just going to have to decide one way or the other. And if you're going to have to like roll the dice pretty much.
And that dog is really the thing that makes the decision for him. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
And you're right. I think too that it goes when you see because the dog is not visible when he sees the family. Yes. And it's only after he sees the little girl, and then he sees the boy, and he obviously, it's like you said, it's the same boy that he saw previously. But then the dog kind of, like you said, sticks his head out from behind them, and that's for like that's when not just the boy, but the audience realizes that when they were in the bunker and they heard the noises, and the kid's like, I think I hear a dog. And of course, the man is like, if it's a dog, it's not by itself. It's with people. We got to get out of here. And literally, he's like, this place isn't safe anymore. And my first thought is like, are you crazy? You're going to leave that place that's stocked to the gills with food? It's like, no, you don't leave. But anyway, you're right. It's like that confirms what because the Molly Parker, the soldier's wife, she says, we've been following you guys for a long time. And when he sees the dog, that's when he knows that they're telling the truth. Yeah,
which is great. Everybody looks so gross that it's hard to see them under the layers. But the wife, the woman, is Molly Parker, who is a great actress, and she's done a ton of things. But I always think it's hilarious that there are so few characters in this movie, because they only come across a handful of people. So there's 4 people that are like, I guess, featured moments that they've had, between Garrett Dillahunt, Robert Duvall, Guy Pearce, Molly Parker, and out of those 4, 50% of them were on Deadwood. Molly Parker's absolutely. Turn. If you've never watched Deadwood, people, what are you waiting for? Molly Parker is fantastic. We've talked about it before when covering Fear the Walking Dead, I'm sure, because Garrett Dillahunt is amazing in Deadwood. So watch that. Fantastic. But yeah, Molly Parker's great. That moment is a beautiful little moment. But I'm curious, like my final point is I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about how do you feel about there being kind of like a kernel of hope at the end? Do you like that? Do you think it's because I think there's two. There's a couple of things happening. They find the people for sure, but one of the final things that he and his dad find together while they're on the road, and I think it's it's either just after he staples himself or whatever, but they're
I think it's actually right before the arrow attack.
They're looking around, and there's like a little like a can top or like a jar top to a jar, something circular, and they pick it up, and the first thing you notice is the color, and he's like, oh wow, and it's a beetle. So it's an insect. So if you think of like everything you learned in evolution, will animals sort of evolve and grow and whatever, or is this just a a small little thing that means nothing? Is it I feel like it's hopeful because it flies away, so obviously it's able to exist in this atmosphere and in this world, and because of that, it means it's found some sort of source of food. So to me, it feels like it's a tiny little kernel of hope. And then he meets the people, and that's another little tiny kernel of hope. Now, you don't know what's going to happen next, but you're left with sort of this tiny little like spark in your heart. And I'm just curious how you felt about that.
Yeah, I took it as they've moved in a southerly direction. They're now closer to the equator, whatever, and the conditions there are not as bleak in that some of the ecosystem has survived. Because if there's one beetle, there's another, and then another, and another, and insects. The one thing about insects, they are proliferate, and they reproduce mass amounts very quickly. You know what I mean? It's when you see the one bug in your house, it really means you have like 1,000 bugs in your house. You just can't see the rest of them because they're all in the walls or whatever. And so when they find that beetle, that is definitely the hopeful sign that there is some version of the ecosystem is still around where they are now that allows that bug to exist. And so yeah, I definitely took that as it's not quite gloom and doom, that there is at least something still growing, living around here. So and you're right, and then the people kind of are the double whammy there, that at the end of like, okay, the kid at least has a shot to not turn into tomorrow's lunch or something.
Here's hoping, right?
Right.
So let's talk. That's kind of everything. So let's talk honorable mentions. So let's talk your honorable mentions first, and then we'll get to mine because I think it'll go into some more details. But let's talk about yours, which is such a great choice.
Yeah. It's just the look of the film. Once we get past the opening kind of flashbacky stuff, and we're in the present day, if you will, when it's just the man and the boy and they're out on the road. It's this washed out, very, very muted color landscape. And there, I mean, literally there, even when you see things that have color, they're all muted. They're all very, like when they spend, there's a bit where they come across these massive, like, man-made, overpasses, and there's a semi-trailer truck there, and they spend the night in it, sleeping in it, and you can tell it's like either purple or crimson or fire engine red, yet this thing is so washed out, and the way that they've muted all the colors, it reads almost as brown, you know, and not only that, but all of the scenes in the present day, you never see the sun ever. It's always gray, overcast. You know, it's always this kind of very, very washed out, bleak, you know, dead kind of look to it. And the cinematographer of this movie is this guy named Javier, and I'm gonna totally butcher this name, Aguirre's Robe, I
Okay.
think. And he, I mean, he is he's got like 100 credits to his name. I mean, the dude is he's in the yeah, he's just an incredible cinematographer and has just worked on a million things. But one of the movies that he was a cinematographer for was back in 2001 was a movie called The
Yes.
Others, which stars Nicole Kidman,
Yes.
and it's this incredible ghost story. And it, I mean, has the same kind of
Mm,
look to it. And so I think the vibe, a lot of the vibe of this movie comes from how it
agreed.
looks, and a lot of it is due to
Yeah.
that guy because he really knew what he was doing. And again, it sets the tone, right? I mean, everything is, you know, we use the word, oh, this movie is so bleak, and it's because when you watch it, it
Yeah.
looks bleak. You know, I mean, it looks like they're just the conditions are harsh and unlivable, and you know, oh, you know, just being there, you'd be, oh my God, I hate it. So yeah, that was kind of my honorable mention, was just the whole washed out cinematography to this, and the look
Yeah.
of the movie is just incredible. And you know, where did they find all of these like fields of like dead
Right.
trees? You know, I mean, because everywhere you go, there are all of these like almost like a petrified forest
Yeah.
kind of look to it, that it's all these dead Hulk
Yeah.
trees that are, you know, not
Yeah.
growing at
It's
all.
almost
So
like they
yeah,
went
very
someplace
cool.
that had been that had like maybe like fire go after, and it's just decimated looking. You just add stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
atmospheric is the what I would say about
Hmm.
like what he created. It's just incredible.
Yeah,
All right, so my
absolutely.
my honorable mention is I wanted to talk about the differences between the book and the movie. Um, and
Great.
there's just a handful of them, really. This is a very, very faithful adaptation of the book. But there's a couple of things that got a little left off or fleshed out a little bit more. We already talked a little bit about how they use and I'm working off of a list here, so don't mind me, but there's a they use in the movie there's flashbacks to go back to the stuff with the wife, and in the book it's a little more they're more like distant memories, and it's you know, it's there's something to be said for like, you know, the stuff that's written in the word is one thing, but what is a minimal amount of words in the book for to describe like sort of a fleeting memory he has, in the
Hmm.
movie they can create something that's colorful and different and visual, and you know, he's having those same images in his head, but now we're getting them interpretive, so they fleshed them out a whole lot more in the movie to really give you an idea of this juxtaposition that he had in his mind of like the before times, you know what I mean? So yeah, so
Hmm.
the sort of, we don't ever get like these colorful descriptions in the book. It's mostly just like a memory of a moment with his wife, but it, you know, by going back to those flashback moments like physically in the movie, they can give you a whole scene that isn't described in the movie. Like they're not describing like the room they're in or like the flowers outside the window or the whatever. They're just, you know, this moment happened with my wife with da 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 da, and it's, you know, more perfunctory. So yeah.
Right.
And then there
Okay.
were a couple of violent moments that were the one particular was kept off, which was one group that they run into. Yeah,
Oh
in
my
to see
God.
that is very disturbing. And it's they come across, there's a woman that gives birth, and they assist, you know, there's like, I can't remember if they assist her or not, but let's just put it this way: the woman gives birth, and then like the next thing you see is that baby is on a spit, and over a fire.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's like cannibalism to an all new level in that instead of like hunting down strangers and killing them and eating them, instead this group, they're like getting the women pregnant and producing their own food
Yeah.
that way, which I mean, oh my God, is that horrible? And what I read about it is that it's not just the one woman, but there are several women that in various stages
Yeah.
of pregnancy that
Yeah.
are in this group, and it's sort of like that's how they've decided to survive, is that
They're
they're gonna
creating their own
you have a
food
baby,
source.
yeah, after you recover, you start trying to have another baby as soon as you can, and just keep that going for as long as you can
Yeah.
make babies. Horrible time. I really wanted to see that scene.
I totally get it. I totally get it. So another difference is hang on, I lost my list here. The so that level of violence was not included, but also in the book, the man is much more as focused on the boy's survival as he is. In the book, he doesn't have any of like the moments of grief that we see, like that moment with the piano and stuff like that. Like those things don't happen in the book, like where he sort of breaks down and has these emotional moments. He's very buttoned up in the book. He's much more focused on survival, and he's just not giving into the emotions. He's portrayed slightly more emotionally in the movie than he is in the book.
Okay.
And the final moments are a little more sentimental, whereas in the book it's a little more ambiguous, and so it's how you feel about. And I think that there's a lot more. The baby on the spit had a lot of conversation online, because there's so many things that go over the line in this story, and this is just like one more that'd be like, you might as well include it. But in terms of like the ending, like how you end the tale, Cormac McCarthy's like intention was a lot more ambiguous than I think the movie is slightly more hopeful than the book leaves it as. And that's saying a lot. Like, it's, even though there's like a kernel of hope at the end, I mean, for how much longer? I mean, it's not quite a great existence, but you have to think about that little beetle. Like, if they keep going south, is there the hope that maybe there could be some slight changes? Hard to say. Yeah, so those are the major ones that are really the difference. A lot of it is mostly and then people would like argue about like the differences in tone and things like that. But in terms of events in the book, they are all exactly the same. They are all like word for word. They're exactly the same with the cannibals. The cannibals were in the cellar. The meat, the spare meat was in the cellar, and that was.
They're taking us to the smokehouse.
I will literally never forget reading that the first time when it became clear what that was, and it's amazing. And so yeah, there's mostly like just the events are almost exactly the same. It's mostly just like how you feel about how they interpreted the tone and the intention of certain stuff. There's only like like the baby on the spit and a little bit of the hopefulness at the ending and stuff like that. The piano scene didn't happen, but everything else, it's all in the book. So yeah. If you haven't had a chance to read that bleak masterpiece, be my guest. To be fair, honestly, the book might actually be a little simpler to take in than the movie, only because Cormac McCarthy is known for such beautiful prose, and his writing style is just so descriptive and beautifully done that it's, if you can admire the art of the story as opposed to like the details, then maybe it's not quite so bleak. But he's known. He's such a prolific writer. No Country for Old Men, obviously, and that movie's great, but also in this instance as well, book better. That movie is fantastic. But still. Anyway, anything else? Any other details about the movie that we should discuss before we take our break?
There's actually I didn't write it down, but there's one bit where near the end where the man takes out this like road map, and he asks the kid, like, do you know where we are? And the kid points at something, and he goes, actually, we're much closer. And if you look at that map, that is actually a map of Texas, and it's near the Gulf, and but it's the coast, like on the map, is further inland than it is now. Like there's more land further to the east of the line and the map where they have the water in there. And so it kind of suggests a little bit more of this, like maybe it was global warming, and the ice caps have fully melted, and so the coastline, a lot more of the land is underwater,
right,
kind of a thing. But what I mean, because I freeze framed that, and I went up and looked at it, and I'm like, I'm looking for any major city that I've heard of before, and there are none on there. But the towns that are on there are real towns. They're just in like I said, they're like on the east coast of Texas, on the Gulf of Mexico side. So that's kind of where they are, and that kind of, you wonder, I before I did that, I'd always assumed that they start their journey and they're like up in like Washington or Oregon or someplace like that. And now I'm not really sure where they're starting from. All we know is that they're north.
I feel like wherever they were, it's someplace where it gets cold. I mean, obviously the environment has changed. So even if it was someplace that was ordinarily warm, it might be experiencing like a, quote unquote nuclear winter. But with the Texas thing, with eagle-eyed people seeing the Texas thing, I honestly always just thought that they were going, since the whole point was to go south, I put them someplace in the lower Midwest. Like maybe they started a little higher, like say like Ohio, because it's clear there's moments where they're walking and there's like hills and mountains and stuff like that, which would be more, Kentucky, Tennessee, like maybe, and if you go straight down from the Midwest, but if they're near Texas, maybe it's the same idea, but it's a little further west than I was thinking. So maybe they started in some place like a Wisconsin or a Minnesota, and then they,
could be, But well, I mean, hey, it could be Texas because, as we all know, Fear the Walking Dead taught us that Texas does have impassable mountain ranges. So it could be.
And that's probably why he was heading there, is because they are, they're sort of immune to the usual effects of any kind of nuclear whatever. So they should be able to survive no problem,
And were they looking for Padre?
I don't know. They didn't say. I mean, Padre, Papa, it's all the same.
It's all the same. Good stuff.
I think that's it.
You know what? And as bleak as this movie is, still more enjoyable than most of Fear the Walking Dead, I gotta say.
Completely agree. So if we don't have any more points, I think we've covered everything we can about the movie. So we're going to go ahead, folks. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to discuss listener feedback we received and what's coming up next on the podcast.
All right, so everybody please stick around, because we will be right back.
Now there's about 20 of them out there.
What will we do?
Don't worry, we're safe in here. They'll never get in.
Why is it that in every zombie story, people always think that their safe haven is invulnerable?
I know. It's like, hello, the walkers are totally gonna get in. You better get ready for it.
No! Diane, get behind me. No, it's not stopping.
Do something, Jack!
And another thing, how come nobody in a zombie story has ever seen a zombie story?
Do you know how much time in human life would be saved if just one person in the group was up on the genre?
What do we do?
Aim for the head.
What?
Aim for the head.
You heard them. Aim for the head.
Quick, Diane, I think we should try and fix the barricades.
I think we should listen to them.
Now, that's the first good idea they've had all episode.
I still don't think they're gonna make it.
Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. Join hosts Diana and Steve as they recap and discuss the best of horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and apocalyptic entertainment. Aim for the Head, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky.
Hey there, everyone. We are back. We are going to jump into our feedback we received for The Road. And first up, some feedback from a familiar name to the listeners. For the last week or
really?
two. But more familiar to me because it's my mother, who left a note on Facebook. Thank you, Nancy. And she wrote, OMG, in regards to The Road, OMG, that was the most depressing book I've ever read, and she used the scream emoji. So apparently my mom doesn't like to read depressing books.
Wow.
And it's, I mean, I'll give her this. I've read a lot of depressing books. I actually just read one. It's very apocalyptic. Oh my God, it's so good. Where's the title? It's called I Who Have Never Known Men. It's amazing. It's really well done. I had to really think about it for like days and days. It is bleak. You think that it is bleaker than The Road. It's so bleak. But anyway, there was some other book that my mom wanted me to, that she borrowed from someone else. I can't remember what it was, but she was like, oh, it was like this and whatever. And she was like, I don't want to read something that depressing. So I'll give her this. It's a depressing book. I'll give you that. And if it's not your style, it may seem even more depressing. So,
Nice.
But I'm glad she read it. It's a classic, and Cormac McCarthy's a great writer. So, I'm sorry it wasn't for you, Ma.
Yeah, all I can say is, you think the book's depressing. Check out the movie. I mean, when I watched it on Amazon, to me, the most uplifting moment of the whole time I was watching the movie was the Toyota commercial that cut in about an hour.
Yeah, I get you. It's, yeah. I love a good Toyota.
Boy, I tell you, I was all for it because I'm like, oh my God, there are colors. It's so great.
That's
And look at those. Look at all the people. They're happy and laughing, and more importantly, they're not eating other people.
I know. That's the ultimate.
Yeah.
Thank you for your thoughts on the book, Ma. I appreciate it. And one of these days, we'll figure out how to get you to listen to the podcast.
Thank you, Mrs. Maxwell.
Thank you. She'll take that. Thank you.
All
right.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we got another piece of feedback, which I was very, very cool, and this came from our pal Damien Vitale.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Damien.
Damien.
How you doing? And this came in via the Facebook as well. So two meta posts. How about that?
Yeah.
And he goes, I wanted to watch because part of this was filmed at an abandoned turnpike tunnel in my state of Pennsylvania. Which is true. It was filmed in multiple spots, kind of all over the country.
Yeah.
There was some stuff like up in the Great Northwest. There was a bit in Pennsylvania, and then some stuff down, in the, like I said, the Gulf area, probably in Texas. But anyway, he goes on to say, such a depressing movie, and on my list of movies that I watched once and never again. And he goes, not for being bad, but for how it made me feel. And I again, like I said, I saw this when it came out, and until I watched it just recently here for this podcast, I don't think I've gone back to it. I think this was the first time. Maybe once in the intervening 17 years, but I don't think so. I think that this was for pretty much the same reasons that Damien has. That it's just I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm
Well, I'm so glad that I can bring up depressing movie topics for all. You're welcome, everybody.
yes, yes. Thank you so much, Diana.
You're welcome.
So,
You're welcome. Hey, the world's on fire right now anyway, so we might as well, start having, the media match it. So, yeah.
there we go. But anyway, Damien, thank you so much for your feedback.
Yeah.
We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thanks, Damien. I hope he's a listener too. That's actually, Damien left that on my personal Facebook, but I'm pretty sure Damien and I are connected through other podcasts, like listeners, fans, etc. So, yeah, I think he's a listener. We'll see. But regardless, thank you for the feedback on the movie itself, and we included that today. So that's what I know. So coming up next on the podcast, we'll be covering a movie. I don't know what that movie is because I wanted Steve to surprise me. So he did let me know that he's got a couple that he was sort of, kicking around, for us to cover. And I would assume maybe because we've discussed them before, but I don't want to assume. So, Steve, I'll give it over to you. What is going to be the topic of next week's podcast?
All right. Well, I thought it over, and we could kind of discuss it a little bit before we started recording here, and had a bunch of possibilities, a bunch of things that I think would be fun. But ultimately, I've decided that next week on our podcast, we're going to be reviewing a movie from 2011 entitled You're Next. So it is oh my God, this movie is so much fun. And my suggestion to you is do not look it up, do not Google it. It is available on Tubi. So you can watch it on Tubi. There will be some commercials in there, but you will get to see the whole thing. It is what I love about this movie, without going into any specifics, is that it starts out as one kind of movie, and then there is a very definite moment where it absolutely makes a left-hand turn into a totally different movie, and it's just as good. So it has a great cast, Barbara Crampton, so you got some horror royalty in it, and also the guy we know, director Ty West, who directed all of the Maxine movies, X, Pearl, and Maxine. He actually is an actor in this movie, because the guys who made this movie were he knew them. He had some kind of relationship with them, and they're like, dude, you should be in the movie. And he's like, I'm not an actor, but they kind of egged him on, and so he has a small but great little part in it as well. But yeah, it's You're Next, and I'm very interested to see your take on it, because I thought this movie was just a ton of fun. So
well, that's great. I'm looking forward to it. It is like you said, it's free on Tubi. It's like most movies. You can rent it on Prime as well. So
yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
I looked it up. It's on like several pay sites. I think it might be on YouTube and a couple other things. But the big thing is you can watch it for free with Tubi. So and like I said, Tubi, that you will have commercial breaks, but it is the full movie. There's no editing or anything. You know what I mean? You get the actual theatrical cut. It just will be interrupted a little bit with some commercial stuff, but whatever. So there you go.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. That's going to be a lot of fun. So just a couple of not programming notes, but some events and things to think about. But coming up in, let's see, it's less than 2 weeks away at this point. So not this coming weekend, which has Mother's Day in the U.S. will be this coming Sunday, but the following weekend, which is the 15th, 16th, 17th, on Saturday the 16th, locally here in Illinois, like the greater Chicagoland area, there's a drive-in, Midway Drive-In, and the folks that own the Midway Drive-In are the ones that put on the Flashback Weekend. And
Mike and Mia Kurz.
Yeah, and those guys are great people. They put on a great con every year. We love them. And there's some consideration of attending this. We're not sure because scheduling, etc. But just so that you guys are aware, if you're a big John Carpenter fan, they are doing a John Carpenter Dusk to Dawn marathon, is how they put it. And it is in order. They're going to start once the sun is down, so probably in that 8:30 to 8:45 range. At the latest, probably 9 o'clock will be the first movie. And it's, oh God, I forget. What are the first two? Oh, it's They Live,
The Fog, Escape from New York, and then In the Mouth of Madness.
Yes. It's a great lineup, and if you've never seen any of those, check them out. If you have never seen them in that format, that sort of like big screen format, this is your chance to do it. Midway Drive-In is a little bit of a hike from the city. It's in Dixon, Illinois. You can look it up. They got a great website, and that the advertisement for the movies is right there. It's a great price. It's only $20. So go to their website, get more information if you're interested. They do events throughout the year. They do these great, they'll get older movies and bring them in, and Nick DiGilio, who's a local film critic who does a bunch of stuff in conjunction with Flashback Weekend, will be there as well, and will likely have he'll introduce the movies and talk in between when they're changing from one movie to the other. So check it out. It sounds like it's going to be a great weekend, especially for any Carpenter fan out there.
Yeah.
It'll be a lot of fun, and a great way to sort of kick off the summer. Summer movie season would be an overnight journey into Carpenter.
Yeah. Yeah, I was fortunate enough several years ago, they did a Romero festival there at the Midway, and I drove out there and it showed night, dawn, and day in sequence. And yeah, it's a really very, very cool drive-in. Like I was telling Diana, they have amazing corn dogs if you like corn dogs, and the rest of the concessions are all really great. And like most drive-ins, there's an extra charge if you want to bring in your own food and drinks, but they let you do that too. So if you want to bring a cooler, or if you want to bring in a pizza or whatever, you absolutely can. You just got to pay a little bit extra because obviously they make a lot of their money on concessions, and so they want to be able to recoup that. But yeah, it's a really cool place. The big drawback, just from my standpoint, and a little bit for you, but not as bad, is it's just far away. It's just not very close to Chicago. But definitely worth a trip out there, particularly when you get like a marathon like this of 4 really, really cool John Carpenter movies.
Yeah, it's a good themed evening. They're known for doing fun stuff like this, and obviously they want to lean in towards the horror because that's their love, and hence with them throwing the Flashback Weekend every year, which is one of our favorite events to go to every year. It's always a blast.
Speaking of which, tickets for Flashback just went on sale.
That's right.
So you can get your ultimate passes if there are any left. You can get your weekend passes and single day passes. They all went on sale. You can find that if you go to flashbackweekend.com and get all the details. It looks like it's going to be a really great show. They haven't completely announced it yet, but my guess is there's going to be a big Halloween 2 reunion, although there are several other reunions brewing as well. They're doing a lot of like Scream 4 and 5 actors. They just announced David Arquette is coming, so that's gonna be fun. Because I want to get him for my the original Scream poster, but he's gonna be there. There's an American Werewolf in London reunion going on, so yeah, that's it's gonna be fun. It always is. We always have a great time, and again, tickets just went on sale, so get them while you can.
Yes, absolutely. And then we've been mentioning this. I haven't had any feedback from folks so far, but just curious, the new Duffer Brothers produced show is just a couple of weeks away from starting. It's called The Burrows. I'm definitely going to check it out, but we're just curious if people are interested in us maybe covering it on the podcast. So let us know either way what you're thinking about that. And if not that, is there a movie that we haven't covered yet? Is there another series that you're dying to see our perspective on? You got to let us know. Just shoot us an email, aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. Most of you guys are connected with us via our Facebook page. Send us a message via the Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah, that's what I know. Anything else we should chat about before we wrap this up?
Just, I noticed, and I've heard some things about it, but I think on Netflix, there's a new, I don't know if it's a movie or just a mini series of The Lord of the Flies that just dropped.
Yeah.
Which, again, definitely not quite end of the world, but certainly for that little group of kids, kind of a very dystopian classic story that I think a lot of us of a certain age had to read multiple times in junior high and middle school and high school. So, but anyway, I've heard good things about it, and I want to say it just either is just like dropped like May 1st, or it's going to become available here in the very near future. So if you're interested at all, if you have any memories of The Lord of the Flies, which is a lovely uplifting tale of a bunch of children that become shipwrecked on an island, and how they, you want to see how
hilarity
savage
ensues.
people can get. Oh yeah, absolutely. It's something. But anyway, that is available, and I want to say that's on Netflix as well as the upcoming Burrows. So yeah, check it out.
Perfect. And obviously, new episodes of The Boys are still ongoing. I think they've got 3 more to go before we're finished, and that's what I know. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for us this week, folks. We look forward to chatting with you next week. But until then, as always, I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
And don't forget to always aim for the head.
'Cause those body shots, they just don't work.
To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed.
Oh, I know what they're doing too. They've got all the stuff that they've cut, and it's like right in our front yard. And they're running it through the chipper right now.
Oh, they're Fargoing it, huh?
Yes, they are Fargoing all of my trees.
Nice.